Good evening, avid space fans. You are looking live at Pad 2 in Starbase, Texas, as for the second day in a row, we attempt the 12th flight of Starship and the first flight of Starship version 3. My name is Caden from Avid Space. I'm your host for today's webcast, and I am joined by Zach from CSI Starbase.
Hello, everybody. This is Zach from CSI Starbase. As Caden said, happy to be here with y'all today for round 2. Hopefully, we have a better outcome today than we did yesterday. As y'all can tell, it appears at least the weather is cooperating a little bit better today, so that's really nice. I'm feeling pretty good about the chances of today going down. Last night, they spent a lot of time fixing the issues that they were having, so I think today should be looking pretty good for us.
Yes, sir. And we've also got on the webcast Mr. Lab Padre himself.
Hey. Good to be back, guys. It kind of feels like Groundhog Day over here at Rocket Ranch Outpost. It is a lovely day. It is extremely hot outside, mostly blue skies with a few little cloud puffs here and there, but also it's extremely gusty outside today too. Hopefully that's going to die down in the next couple of hours and shouldn't be a problem. But good to be back with you all again, and let's keep our fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, keeping our fingers crossed for today. So this is, of course, the second attempt at this launch. Yesterday at about this time or a little later, we got down to T-minus 40 seconds in the countdown, and we had, I believe it was 5 recycles back to that hold point as SpaceX were troubleshooting a number of issues. And eventually the one that ended up causing a scrub was a pin on the quick disconnect arm on Starship's launch tower that failed to retract. And so overnight, SpaceX teams did a lot of work on that pin, tested it out a few times, and it seems the issue's been resolved because we are going for another launch today at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. It's the opening of a 90-minute window that lasts until 7 p.m. Central Time, and SpaceX are targeting the start of that window. So SpaceX's stream will go live about 30 minutes in advance, and when they do, we will show that, of course. But until then, we've got our live feeds here from Avid down in Starbase. And we are going to just be talking about what we're going to expect to see today, some of the upgrades, of course, that have come with version 3 of the Starship vehicle, and just hang out until we get there. So we're currently sitting at just under T-minus 2 hours. We're coming up on T-minus 1 hour and 55 minutes. So the next major milestone is not for about another hour and 5. That'll be the go for prop load. So in the meantime, if you guys have any questions that you would like to get answered on screen, feel free to drop those with @question followed by your question in the chat, and we'll pull it up. We appreciate you all being here, of course. Any extended support's always appreciated. Leaving a like on the stream, a subscription to the channel. We're getting pretty close to hitting 250,000 subs again, so hopefully we'll be able to pull that off today. And then, of course, we appreciate all of our members that have joined the channel, whether you're Lab Padre Live, Lab Padre Gold, Lab Padre Elite, we appreciate it all. So any extended support's appreciated, but regardless, thank you all for being here.
Did they change the start time so they're not doing 45 minutes this time?
Yeah, that's right. They're starting 30 minutes in advance now. So the SpaceX webcast, I think, is showing 4:58 Central is when it's going live now.
Okay, well, I guess we know what parts they're probably not going to show this time.
Right.
It does give us some things that we can talk about in the meantime leading up. There was plenty of information that was discussed during that broadcast that we didn't really have a chance to touch on yesterday. I suppose we could have stayed on a little bit longer to go over it, but in my opinion, it was probably even better to save for today. Given that we're starting a little bit earlier, we can, take our time with covering all of that stuff. And on that note, I don't know did we have footage from last night of them working on the ship QD arm? I know that there was a pretty good amount of people who were watching.
I believe there is. Yeah, I believe there is some footage somewhere. I don't know if we could get that pulled up right now, but yeah, they spent quite a lot of time last night testing out that retract pin on the QD arm, and or testing out the retraction of that pin, I should say. So it seems they've troubleshooted that issue. So hopefully that will not be giving us any problems today. I know some other stuff that they faced in the last few seconds of the countdown. There was also something related to the flame diverter on pad 2, which it seems that they also got figured out before the QD arm issue came up. So new vehicle, new pad, this stuff is expected. Hopefully a second go around we'll have better luck. But to talk a little bit about...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, I don't know if my eyes were deceiving me or not, but I think I saw a pair of jets fly across the shot here that we were looking at a while ago. Did anybody else catch that?
I just saw something from Jared Isaacman posting that he was going to fly really quick and inspect the QD.
Good stuff.
That is true.
And
yeah,
I did see Lusa just pop up the footage right there. You can throw it back up if you want to. Yeah, so this was last night. The pin for the QD arm. You can actually see the pin in the middle of the screen, like where these guys are standing. It's you can see the sharp little pin sticking down. So not entirely sure what they did last night. We did see some sparks kind of flying in there. And then at some point we did see several retraction tests. You can see them kind of back and forth in that area. So yeah, I mean, you know what? The good thing is that SpaceX has probably one of the best response teams when it comes to, pad GSE. I don't know if you would consider this GSE, kind of, yeah. But this is a very important component because this is basically what locks the QD arm in place. And it's just a hydraulic actuator that has basically a really sharp pin on the end of it. And so you can kind of see the double clevis bracket with the single clevis in the middle that the pin is basically protruding down through. And so before liftoff, that pin basically pulls out to release, and that without that, the hydraulic actuators on the QD arm cannot actually push the QD arm away. So that would be a very bad day if that failed to actually retract during liftoff, because they would not be able to actually push the QD arm away from the stack. So very important piece of equipment there. Interesting that to have a random issue like that. I'm assuming that that's one of those things that they've just tested more frequently than we can even realize, because we don't even think about it being there until something ends up going wrong with it. But yeah, it seems like they had late night last night, just making sure that everything was good to go. And given that we appear to be preparing for that final countdown later today, I think everything went well last night. So shout out to that team for getting everything back in working order.
I think I saw somebody with some WD-40 on there a second ago.
Yeah, I mean, I did see a lot of people asking on X today why they didn't swap this out for an electric actuator like they did for the chopsticks. And you know, the chopsticks are one of the only places where they have electric actuators that I know of, other than the TVC actuators on the booster and the flaps. Actually, I'm not sure if the flaps are electric or not. I think the flaps may be electric, but I know for sure the grid fins are. Everywhere else, the hold down arms, the actual hold down clamps, the booster QDs, the ship QD, all of that stuff is still hydraulic. The only thing that was changed over to electric was the actual chopsticks. And that was for a very specific reason. I don't know if most of y'all remember some of the, we called them the slap tests that they did on the, booster 18 point.
I think it was 14.1.
Yeah, 14.1 test article. Yeah. So that was when they were basically closing the arms around that test article as fast as they could. And it always bounced against it and bounced several times after making contact, essentially. And that was something that they tried to tune out for a long time. But kind of, I think we probably even discussed it during the launch streams back then. There's only so much you can do when it comes to, number one, having a hydraulic system, and number two, just with how long the arms were, they're naturally going to flex when they come to a stop. And so like the only way to prevent that is to begin stopping before you actually need to stop. And by doing that, you also reduce the speed that you actually get. It takes more time to get to that closing spot that you need to be at. And so, if you're think of it as, have you ever driven? I was in downtown Denver. You always end up catching every single red light, and then people always race from the green light to the next red light, and you're already braking halfway to the next red light, and that's kind of what the hydraulics are doing. But they don't want to brake halfway there. They want to brake 3/4 of the way, or maybe even further. But by doing that, especially with those long chopsticks, it ends up flexing because there's just so much torque on the arm that it's going to flex before it reaches its end position. So tuning stuff like that is a lot easier with electric systems versus hydraulic. And I remember at that time we got in some pretty deep discussions about this because I don't know. I think very few people were on my side when it came to that discussion. A lot of people were convinced that you can, in fact, tune that out, and turns out that is not the case. So that was a big upgrade for the chopsticks, but it's not something that was done everywhere else because it's not necessarily needed everywhere else. And in reality, when it comes to something that absolutely has to retract, like the hold down arms, that is still better as a hydraulic system, primarily because you're not having 20 individual actuations. It's all a single actuation, all tied into one hydraulic system. So you want them all to go at the exact same time, which not impossible with electric. It just creates more failure points. So that's kind of why they still maintain hydraulics through most of their systems.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see when we get into booster catches with V3, and even today, they're probably going to do a simulated catch. How much quicker, how much more dialed in the electromechanical chopsticks are going to be, because we could see the sway that would happen with the hydraulic ones, with the longer ones, and it was quite prevalent. How they had to brake sort of halfway there. So it'll be interesting to see the difference with the new design. We had a donation come in just a minute ago. I just want to bring that up real quick. $10 donation from Don Bottom 8723 saying, thanks for being there, gang. Been watching since 2020. That's been 6 years. I don't want to think about that. But thank you, Don, for the $10 donation. But yeah, we got a lot of exciting new information from yesterday's stream. Chief among that information, something that's been talked about a lot, is, of course, the commander of the From 2 mission that launched on Dragon a couple of years ago, Chun Wong, I believe is his name, has announced that he's going to be on the first crewed flyby of Mars on Starship. That is unprecedented. And we didn't really get much information other than that. We didn't get anything on timeline or, how exactly that's going to be done or what the name of the mission is, just that he is going to be on the first one now. So that's the first, public crew assignment of someone on a mission to Mars, which I guess that alone is quite monumental.
So, I'm a little out of the loop because as soon as I found out that Tim was not going on the Dear Moon mission, I kind of stopped paying attention to most of that stuff. So this is the same person who paid for the Dear Moon mission initially, right?
No. So Dear Moon was a Japanese billionaire, Yusaku Maezawa, and
Okay.
this one is he's from Malta, I believe. His name's Chun Wong, and he's like I think he's a big crypto guy. I'm not sure exactly what he's done, I don't think, but he did From 2 on, which was one of the, I guess you could call them tourism missions on Dragon. It had the cupola on board. It was the polar orbit mission. It was the first ever crewed mission to a polar Earth orbit. That happened in, I want to say it was 2024, maybe early 2025. I'm not sure. But he was the commander of that flight, and also the one that kind of funded that flight. So he announced from a remote island in the ocean that he was going to be on the first crewed Starship mission to Mars. Not landing, just a flyby. But yeah. And this does seem a lot like Dear Moon. It is kind of the same vibe. So I don't know if that bodes too well considering what ended up happening to Dear Moon, but we can hope, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's, any whether it comes out to end up happening or not, I think any interest that it gets built in that area is good, but also, I mean, at the same time, you do want to actually execute on things that you say you're going to do. So hopefully this time it actually does end up happening. Yeah, I personally am not getting my hopes up yet because I feel like there's so many milestones that need to be accomplished before we even begin considering that. So,
yeah, I believe I said this yesterday briefly. It was like, there's how many thousands of engineering problems that still need to be solved before we can even think about going to Mars? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I think any interest is good, especially from, people that have that kind of platform, like entrepreneurs. And I believe he's also kind of in the whole field of adventurers. I guess he's pretty famous because he's gone to a bunch of different remote places on Earth, and that's kind of his whole thing. So, having people like that have a big platform, that have a lot of people that follow them, and them bringing attention to this kind of stuff is always good. We just got 10 memberships gifted in chat by Stumpy. Thank you very much for that. That's awesome. Enjoy the memberships, you 10 lucky folks. And we also had a $5 donation come in from Spacewatcher01 saying, thank you for all you guys do. Thank you for the support, Spacewatcher.
Also have to give out a special shout out to Mrs. Lab Padre on the stream. I see you watching out there, honey. Thank you for all your support and letting me do this and I know it takes away so much time from you, and I'm sorry for that.
That sounded very sincere. I like it.
He's making sure that he's not sleeping on the couch tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you know, anytime you have to do a repeat stream, it always makes things a little bit difficult as far as scheduling goes. Everybody, well, for the most part, hopes it goes off the first time. You know, occasionally we want delays. I'm not gonna lie, I so this, and I'm only bringing this up because Tim posted about it earlier today. So when SN11 happened, it was just like super foggy out, you know what I mean? And like everybody was hoping that it wasn't going to launch. And then they did it. And we were all kind of upset about it, obviously, because of what happened after. And every time since then that SpaceX has delayed, other than flight, was it flight one that it went straight into the clouds and then we didn't see it again after that? I'm pretty sure that was flight one. You know, every other time that they've delayed, the next day ends up being way better as far as weather is concerned. And that also would have been the case for SN11. It was beautiful the next day. So here we are, very little clouds in the sky, do have some wind, but overall, in my opinion, this is just a better day. Obviously, one way or another, we would have had onboard cams from SpaceX, but you know, when you do have all these photographers going down there to actually capture good footage and whatnot, it is nicer to have clear weather like we do today. So in my opinion, it actually worked out for the better. And you know, hoping for delays for the purpose of better weather, or whether, you know, you can actually see, maybe you can see it in person if it delays, I don't think is necessarily that bad of a thing to do, but that's just me.
Yeah, what I was with SN11, I remember what I was most upset about wasn't necessarily the fact that that it launched into those clouds, but the fact that it was, this is a little morbid, but it would have been the most spectacular explosion of the program to watch. And if we
Easily.
had had clear skies for that, that would have been so cool. And I know, or well, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure SpaceX have views of it from the landing pad that have not been released publicly. And I hope perhaps someday in a documentary we'll be able to see that.
I don't think they could have seen. I mean, we had cameras out there and it was totally foggy. You couldn't see anything. I don't even think you could see the launch pad from across the street.
No.
Yeah, I believe the only pictures
I
that came
mean,
out like from the ground were, I think it was Trevor Malman managed to get some images through the clouds of it going into the flip maneuver. There was this little tiny break in the clouds that he managed to get through, but that was it.
Yeah, that was out at South Padre Island. That they had a brief view, and that was actually the only launch that I've missed out here. I had an emergency situation with a client and could not show up for the launch, and so we had a bunch of nerdle out here that I missed out on and missed out on the launch, but evidently I didn't miss out on much because he couldn't see anything anyway.
Yeah, if there was any launch to miss out on, it would have been that one. I saw someone in chat saying, like, yeah, Flight 1 did fly into a tornado, a rock tornado. That's one of my favorite terms to come out of the Starship program so far, because that was an official term that they used to describe what happened on Flight 1, was a rock tornado.
Before I go any further, I wanted to give some shout outs to some of our team. I don't have everybody's name on hand here, but all of our camera operators, our moderators, our admins on Discord, Rusty, Gray, Andrew, all of y'all do a great job helping us out here, man. We couldn't do it without you all, and our assets team that helped grab all the clips with our recording system. You know, it's all because of you all that we get all this done, and especially, you know, with our specialized people here like Zach that knows just about everything about Starbase, and Caden. You know, both of y'all do an excellent job with these commentary streams. So thank you all very much.
yeah, of course.
It's a pleasure
Always
to
happy
be
to be here.
Coming up on 90 minutes to go. still targeting 5:30. It looks like. Hopefully we won't, and I imagine we won't get any more half-hour delays, because SpaceX mentioned yesterday that the reason for it was a grand total of 1 hour delayed from the original T0, that it was because of some upper level winds that they were worried about. But weather is 85% go today, and looking at these camera feeds, it looks fantastic out there. We were talking earlier about how it seems like every delay does make for better weather. So don't think that's going to be a concern today.
Yeah, it's definitely great weather for the launch, but from our view right here, it's a little hazy across the bay here and the grasslands.
Yeah, and we were talking before the stream. There's quite a bit more heat distortion on the cams than there was yesterday, and I know you mentioned this earlier, Lab, that it's quite hot down there in Starbase.
Yes, sir. I'm ready for winter, and summer's just getting started.
Yeah, I've yet to make the trek down to Starbase. I've told myself that I'm going to when they attempt the first ship catch. I definitely want to be there for that. But I've been told to be prepared for the heat and also the mosquitoes. It's not hot, it's humid. Yeah, it's true. It's a classic saying. It's not the heat that gets you, it's the humidity.
And it definitely is humid out here. We're probably in the low 90s right now, I think, where we're at.
All right. Well, I'll run through real quick.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say one thing that I did want to mention from the stream yesterday, because I started to talk about it, but I didn't want to interrupt the broadcast from SpaceX. But one thing I was kind of looking for yesterday, which was kind of a big deal for me, and it kind of goes back to the whole wishing for a delay type thing, because I was trying to release this episode at least up before the launch happened, because I had a feeling that SpaceX might go into detail about their new Deluge system. So I just wanted to. I hate feeling like I'm regurgitating information, so I wanted to get that out first. And then, so at the very beginning of that episode, I mentioned that this is a system that SpaceX has not publicly acknowledged yet, and I was hesitant on actually saying that, because if anybody saw it literally 24 hours later, that could turn out to be not true. So I was actually low-key happy that they didn't say anything about it, although I did at the same time kind of wish they would have mentioned it, because it's like one of the coolest details about the new pad, and they just like not even mentioning it. They got close. They started talking about the flame deflector. They didn't say anything about anything related to the Deluge farm, how much water they're moving, how fast, nothing.
Yeah, which is wild, because the new Deluge system, I think, is one of the most impressive upgrades to come with Pad 2 and with version 3. But they talked about a number of the others, like with specifically, they talked quite a bit about the upgrades that they've done to Super Heavy, which I guess is fair, because that's the component that I would say has had the biggest redesign other than the pad. But yeah, I was a little surprised they didn't get too much into the Deluge.
Yeah, I mean, it's easily the most critical part of the whole GSE system, and it is, as I said yesterday, a big enabler to allowing them to take off with an extremely high thrust to weight ratio, like we're going to see for the first time today. So you would have thought that they would talk about it. I think one reason possibly that they didn't is because it's also something that they have been having issues with lately, and so maybe they're kind of waiting till they make sure that it's all ironed out before they kind of celebrate what they accomplished with that. Because there have been times in the past where they get really excited about something and then it blows up, and then so I get that part. But still, I think I would have
Flight 1.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing on Flight 1. Like on Flight 1, I feel like they probably should have started off that broadcast saying, "Hey, like, we have this new Deluge system coming, and right now, as much as we think we need it in the future, we also think that today we should be fine without it, because we've done this testing, and that testing shows that we won't dig a hole into the ground. So we're hoping that doesn't happen. And then it ends up happening anyways. But given it, that it's a critical part of the system that they were already like watching, you would think that they would maybe mention it as a thing to look out for, or something that they're hoping goes the way they expect it to. And to me, this is another system that is kind of in that same ballpark of Flight 1, where it's purely intended to protect the pad, and it has the potential to turn off at ignition. And that is essentially what happened during the first static fire attempt. They said it turned off after ignition, but from what I've been able to tell after going back and reviewing the footage, it actually turned off about 1.5 seconds before ignition. So that is a thing that can happen, though, is that you ignite all those engines and you lose part of that system. And at that point, depending on, because you have 3 seconds between ignition and liftoff. So as during that time, I guess if you're like more than a second in, you can't really do anything about it. You just have to go, because shutting down like that, as we saw with that 10 engine test, it can damage some of the engines. So or all of them, because it's an emergency shutdown, and that's not what they're intended to do. They don't want to shut the engines down like that. So given that, there is a possibility, although I hope it's very low, that part of that system could fail at a time where there's nothing they could do about it. And I don't think we would see like a catastrophic failure as a result, but we would definitely see the aftermath, as far as, like, for example, if it happened with the water-cooled launch deck, you would end up seeing a huge black soot or whatever charring on the deck of the launch mount, like we got used to seeing with Pad 1. If we see that afterward, that is a sign that something did not go to plan. So they want to keep every millimeter of steel that they have. They don't want to be burning through that steel, which is what this is intended to prevent from happening. So making sure it goes perfect is ideal. I think they could handle one failure, but if it happened multiple times in a row, multiple launches in a row, then you'd start to get into the realm of needing to actually repair some of those components that are being worn down. So hopefully we won't see anything like that. I got my fingers crossed, because as much as I am very impressed by this new system, I also view it as a potential liability. So, I like to be honest with my thoughts and not just hype everything up. But it is a super crazy system with equally risky potential for partial or total failures.
Yeah, and those repairs, I mean, that's basically the exact opposite of what they want to do, because they've mentioned in the stream yesterday that this new system is designed for essentially zero refurbishment, which is what they want for the entire Starship system, the pad and both vehicles. They want rapid reuse, and part of that rapid reuse is with the launch pad as well. A lot of people don't realize that most launch vehicles, essentially, their pads do require repairs after almost every single launch. I would say the only major exception to that in recent times is probably the Falcons, because they've been able to keep up such a high cadence. But things like the Saturn V basically mangled its launch pad every single flight. There's a lot of really interesting reports out there from the Apollo program, from NASA, especially on some of the earlier Saturn V flights, like Apollo 4, Apollo 6. Just the amount of damage that was done to the launch tower was nuts. And a similar thing happened on Artemis 1 with SLS. I believe the big thing of note back then was a lot of the elevator doors in Mobile Launcher 1 got blown out. And there we go. It looks like the tower vent is going pretty well on the pad there. So that's a good sign in our countdown. But yeah, that minimal refurbishment is the goal for Starship. And we actually had a relevant question to this come up just a second ago, and I'll run through this pretty quick because we've also got a couple of super chats that I want to show. But this was a question from David Racing P6V saying, do we know when Pad 1 is going to be done? As far as I understand, it might be quite a while, because they've only just recently started refitting it. Is that correct, Zach?
They're moving faster than you would expect, I would say. The chopsticks have already been shortened. I think they still have other modifications they still need to do that. We are expecting them to pull the ship QD arm off the tower. They did need to replace all of the plumbing on the inside of the tower, but I think they've already. I know they removed all of the old plumbing. I think they have already added in a lot of the new plumbing as well too. I've never actually seen them doing it, so I don't know how they. I don't know how they removed it, and I also don't know how they put it back in there. To tell you the truth. But the trench itself is in the process of being excavated right now. With pad 2, that excavation process took 6 weeks, if I remember correctly. So that alone was quite a long process. And then after that, you have forming out the base of the trench, building the walls, and everything else that goes with that. So I would say, well, if they were on pad 2 timeline, then we would be a year and a half out. But I think that it'll probably be back online about this time next year.
And by that point, we should be at least 3 active Starship pads, because 39A should be going by then. So pretty cool that we'll go from 1 pad to 3 within the next year, hopefully. And we had a couple of super chats come in a few minutes ago. We had a $20 donation from Yazada, a frequent donator here, saying thanks for doing this. It's appreciated. Definitely appreciate your extended support there. We got another $20 donation from Your Pickle, saying the Lab Padre commemorative coins are very good. Get yours soon, and tell them where to go get them. Yeah, you can get those at the Lab Padre merch shop. I believe there's links to that posted in chat by the Nightbot. And if you are a member of the channel or a patron on our Patreon, you get a discount code as well. So yes, get those commemorative coins. They are very neat. I've seen the designs for them. We're coming up on an hour and 23 minutes out. And yeah, so very, very good explanation there about the Deluge system and kind of the goals of this redesigned pad for version 3. And SpaceX didn't talk too much about that on their webcast yesterday, but some of the stuff that they did go into pretty in depth was the upgrades on the vehicles themselves, Super Heavy and Starship. And just to run through those in the quickest way that I can, because if I really went in depth on it, we'd be sitting here for an hour. But on Super Heavy, yeah, we got time. But on Super Heavy, you'll notice that there is a bit of an unusual configuration in the grid fins. There is one grid fin. It is not missing. They did not forget to install it. It is intentionally not there. They have dropped the amount of grid fins on Super Heavy from 4 to 3. Each fin is also now, SpaceX claims, at least 50% larger and significantly stronger than the previous design. We talked a little bit yesterday about 50% larger. We're not entirely sure if they're actually that much larger, but they also have a new catch point on them. So whereas on the previous Super Heavies, they would be caught on the launch tower by a catch pin that was separate from the grid fins, this time they are actually caught by the grid fins. There's this SpaceX had a render of it yesterday, but there's this there's this new point on the grid fins that's supposed to lock in with the chopsticks there. And they've been reclocked on the booster to support vehicle lift and catch operations. So they are now 90 degrees separated from each other as opposed to the previous configuration. And they've been lowered down to reduce heat exposure from Starship's 6 and eventually 9 engines during hot staging. All of the internals of the grid fins as well are now inside the booster's main fuel tank, which I think is one of the craziest changes to come with this version of the vehicle. And that's also for better protection. But hot staging, speaking of that, now occurs a little differently. So the hot stage ring or hot stage adapter that we previously had on Super Heavy that was kind of added pretty late in the game after Flight 1, it was just an adapter. It was an extra ring that was added on top of the existing Super Heavy design, and it was jettisoned after staging. And that was obviously a pretty inefficient design, and it also didn't allow SpaceX to get the full benefit of hot staging that they could. That is fixed with version 3 now. So now the hot stage is integrated into Super Heavy. You can see that truss structure on top of the vehicle above the grid fins. The forward dome of the booster fuel tank is also now directly exposed to the Starship engines upon ignition. We had a view of the Starship engine bay yesterday, and you could see that the booster forward dome is just right there underneath the engines. It's got a layer of steel on top of the forward dome that protects it from those engines as well. So rather than having an entire adapter that's separating the two, it is now hot staging just occurs on the booster itself, and there is that non-structural layer of steel that serves as protection. One thing that SpaceX, I don't believe, mentioned, though, was that the actuators on the hot stage that connect the ship and the booster, they now retract after separation, and that's just for further shielding from the Raptor plumes. They did not do that on the previous iteration because, of course, the hot stage adapter was not brought all the way back down to the ground. Another thing with Super Heavy that's been talked about quite a bit is the fuel transfer tube. So that is the giant tube inside of Super Heavy that transfers the fuel from the main tank to the engines. It has been completely redesigned. It is now the number, or the comparison that SpaceX likes to use, is that it's now the size of a Falcon 9 first stage. So they've, in a way, put a rocket inside of a rocket. And what that enables is now all 33 Raptor engines can start up at the same time, or very close to the same time. And I believe they mentioned, this was something that we didn't really expect, but I believe they mentioned now during hot staging they're going down to 5 Raptors instead of just 3. And there's been some talk about what exactly that could mean, but I believe what SpaceX mentioned, that it was going to enable it was for the flip maneuver. It was for a faster or more reliable flip maneuver. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, on that note, they also, and I don't know if they misspoke, but they also said that boost back was going to be with all 33 engines, which is crazy. That implies that they have relight capabilities with the outer 20 now, which I don't get why that would be necessary. That would be an absurd, absolutely absurd thrust to weight ratio with all 33 engines going. The amount of G forces that it would be pulling with a nearly empty booster and all 33 engines would be absolutely insane. So I wonder if that was them misspeaking, but we're gonna find out if they say it again.
I want to think that they misspoke there, because even if they did have relight capability on the outer 20 engines, which I I don't think they do. But if they do, I don't see why they would want to relight all 33 because of those G forces that you mentioned. It just seems unnecessary. It seems like they're putting unnecessary structural loads on the booster. But I guess we'll find out. We'll see. And this is a pretty good question, actually, that I can pull up. It's how could or have they tested the booster dome receiving the exhaust of the 6 Raptors? I believe they've done that through, if I'm not mistaken, they've done that through test tanks that they've tested at Massey's. Booster, was it 18.1 or 18.3 or one of those that was kind of a structural test article for the forward section of the booster?
Yeah, but that was more of a max Q test. I mean, I think they did have, if I remember correctly, they did have actuators on the inside pulling down on the dome, but that only simulates the, mechanical forces, not the actual thermal stuff, which is something they've never tested for on any of their hot stage rings. So I think getting the hot stage ring from booster 13, I want to say, was the one they recovered. Yeah, I think it was booster 13. I think that was like probably the most data they've gotten back on what happens to the top of the hot stage ring. So yeah, that's one of those things that they've basically put extra thick paneling beneath the engines in order to kind of almost create a thicker ablative surface, which it's weird even considering it an ablative surface, considering it needs to be able to, refly multiple times. So that has always been a big thing for me, is with an integrated hot stage ring and reusability, almost seems like they shouldn't exist in the same sentence. But yeah, I mean, they seem pretty confident about it. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out in the long term, whether they end up having to put extra shielding or if they have to install the shielding in a way that allows it to be replaced. And same thing with the struts on the actual hot stage ring itself. That is another thing I'm interested to see how those handle the just the thermal environment long term.
Yeah, like you said, I guess those test tanks, they could only simulate the mechanical loads, which is still important for them to get data on, but the thermals, you can kind of only get data on that from actually flying it. So I guess that's something that they're just going to have to trust and see if they have to make any changes after they actually do it. Another question here from Lucid. Do the outer 20 engines on the booster still need the launch mount to ignite? I believe the answer to that is yes. I'm not 100% though.
I think all 33 of them do. And that was the case before as well. They're not using Raptor QDs anymore, but the launch mount is still responsible for that spin start. For sure for the outer 20, most likely for the inner 13 as well, because the more you can do from the GSE components from the ground side systems, the less COPVs you need on board the booster. And what I will say is they do have significantly more COPVs on the booster than they did before. They basically replaced what was previously 2 very large CO2 tanks with even more COPVs. And now that I think about it, those extra COPVs almost do imply that they're doing a 33 engine restart or a 30 engine restart on boost back. That would kind of explain why they have so many of them. So maybe they didn't misspeak after all. We'll find out though.
That would be insane if they did not. All right. We got a few new super chats actually that have come up in the last few minutes. Got a $20 donation from Gary Peak 607. It's a great day to go to space. Yes, it's a great day to go to space and bring back a couple of big steel tubes. Then we had a 59 Norwegian krone donation from Frederick saying, great stream. And can some of you give a deeper understanding of the tower avoidance maneuver? Zach, if you want to take that.
Yeah, so I think it's weird. It's hard to call it, a pad versus tower versus just a pitch over maneuver, but I do think an aspect of it is actually protecting the pad. So number one, you would kind of think naturally they want to put as much of the exhaust through the middle of the launch mount as possible, for as long as possible. But I think when you lift off straight up like that, then it keeps, I don't know. Honestly, I can't really imagine it actually damaging the chopsticks any more than what it does currently, because when they pitch away from the tower, then now you're kind of you end up pointing those engines directly at the tower at some point, instead of never having them actually point directly at the tower, and instead of, you're passing closer to it than you would without the pitch over maneuver. So we have seen damage in the past from on the top of the pad 1's tower from the weather station or whatever that's on top of there. And we also did see damage to the chopsticks as well on flight. What was the one that aborted the landing?
That would have been flight 6.
Yeah. So we have seen multiple examples of why they do that. To some degree, I feel like that hardware should be installed in a way that it can handle those kind of forces. But if that's something that makes them just way too heavy, then you kind of got to have the vehicle help out the pad by just turning away. So yeah, I do suspect that we may still see that. It's possible that we won't though. With how high of a thrust to weight ratio they're going to have at liftoff, just that much thrust, they may, man, that's just going to be such a aggressive maneuver because, the pitch over is kind of like a, I want to say like a 1 to 2 seconds of TVC turned, uh, in order to initiate that. But with this high of a thrust to weight ratio, I mean, it's just like a flick of those center 13 engines to pitch it over. So it'll be interesting. I suspect it'll be a lot more obvious when it happens too. You'll be able to see the TVC very clearly because it'll happen so rapidly.
Yeah, and that pad avoidance maneuver, importantly, should actually do its job this time. Assuming it's still done, it should actually do its job a lot better than it did when we had pad 1, because we talked about this a bit more extensively in the last stream. But pad 1 had the single QD for super heavy on the side of the pad that the plume was impacting during the pad avoidance. So the pad avoidance maneuver it actually ended up doing more damage to the pad than it would have if you just went straight up. So a bit of a questionable decision there, design choice. We don't really know why that was the case, but that has been fixed with this pad. The 2 QDs now are on the opposite side of the plume this time. So it'll actually protect those somewhat. And another little super chat come in. It was £2 from Just Martin UK. Free Just Martin. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but thank you for the donation. And let's see. Believe we had, if I can find it. Yeah, we had another question here from Sarah KB. In the event of this launch attempt also being scrubbed, when would the next attempt be? Believe we have settled that the next attempt would be no earlier than Tuesday, because this upcoming weekend is a federal holiday in the United States. So not much will be going on over the next few days. So probably Tuesday if today were to be scrubbed. But as of now, it looks like everything's looking pretty good. An hour and 7 minutes out, almost 17 minutes away from the go for prop load, which is when things start getting real. And just as a reminder, if you want your question answered on screen, you can just ping @question followed by your question in chat, and we can pull it up for you. And I will note that if they do end up lighting all 33 engines on the boost pack, they still, and I'm pretty sure this is kind of self-explanatory, but they still only have thrust vector control on the inner 13. SpaceX have mentioned that in their blog post about all the upgrades that they've done to Super Heavy. They specifically say the thrust vector control hardware on the inner 13 engine. So the outer 20 still do not have that. I don't know if that lends credence to either side of whether or not they will ignite all 33 for the boost back, but it is just something to note that has not changed since version 2.
I'm starting to wonder if we're in a hold because we haven't seen the tower event in a while.
And I'll just chime in real quick. We got a $100 donation from Mauser saying, should we send it? I think we should send it. I agree, Mauser. Thank you so much for that $100 donation. That's going to go toward Lab's new camera fund or the root beer fund, as we were talking about yesterday. Thank you so much, Mauser. That's a regular in chat here at Avid. We appreciate that very much. And I just want to mention real quick, we are just a few dozen subscribers away from hitting 250,000. So that's very exciting. Hopefully we'll hit that today. If we can, that would be awesome. And if you're not subscribed and you're enjoying the stream, if you want to be one of the last few to get us there, we would definitely appreciate that. I believe last update that I got was we were only 37 subscribers away from that milestone. So we are very, very close. That is a very, very good accomplishment. 33 subscribers away now, I just heard. So hit that button if you're enjoying this commentary. We would love to see that milestone hit in the middle of the countdown here for Starship Flight 12. That would be awesome.
Have we seen any updates from SpaceX? No, not in the last 6 hours. Well, that's inspiring.
Well, I guess if nothing,
it should be moving away from the roadblock in like 4 minutes or so, right? Like that's what they did last time, about the hour mark.
Yeah, right around the T-minus 60-minute mark. And we do get an update from them usually at the go for prop load. So assuming that nothing has happened, we should get an update in about 14 minutes on that. But yeah, we are just 33 subs away from 250K. 1 sub for each Raptor engine on Super Heavy. Another thing that I just realized that they didn't really talk on, and I guess it's maybe not as hugely important as some of the other stuff that's happened with the booster, but the 33 engines are also in a slightly different configuration now from version 2. Specifically the center engines, I believe, have been offset slightly, and I'm assuming that's to help with the flip maneuver after hot staging.
No, the Ring of 10 were rotated 18 degrees in order to move them off of the apex of the flame deflector. And same thing with the center engines, because if they hadn't have done that, they would have had, I think it was 7 engines. Sorry, I think it was 4 engines that were firing directly onto the center of the apex. So by rotating them, they moved all of those engines off of it. I don't think it has anything to do with the flip maneuver.
Okay, cool. Yeah, they didn't really touch on that very much. Of course, not as big of a change. Yeah.
Hey, I can't be mad at them, because if they did explain everything, it would just, put me out of business. So
that's why
I was actually thinking that when they started talking about the Deluge system, I was like, am I retiring? Am I retiring? And then they didn't mention it, and I was like, okay, well, I guess we're still good for now.
Yeah, that's why we've got people like you on here, Zach, is to tell us everything that SpaceX won't. We definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about like the ship specifically that I am not the best person to go to for it. I feel like I'm pretty well versed on the booster. Not as much as I will be in a few weeks, but yeah, I've been waiting to actually talk about the booster as well, because there's so many things that they've done with it that are just pretty crazy. And they did actually mention, why they did it to enable the 33 engine startup, but they didn't go into any detail about how that actually enables them to do that. And again, if they are doing a 33 engine boost back, it would definitely be nice to know why. But I think if and this is a huge if that I have a feeling is not going to come true, if they display booster and ship telemetry, specifically booster telemetry for the full mission, we'll gain a lot more info. But I think hopefully they're not listening to this, because we're like, oh, turn it off. But it's actually weird, because it wasn't until some of us started actually posting like detailed analysis of that telemetry data that they just all of a sudden stopped. It did coincide with a new layout of their overlay for the stream, which I will say does actually look better, minus the fact that it didn't include, constant telemetry. But hopefully over the last 7 months, they've figured out how to arrange that on screen a little bit better so that they can afford to actually have both ship and booster telemetry on screen for the entire time. But we'll see.
We had a $50 donation come in from Boomer42. 250, baby. Yes, we are now 15 subscribers away. Sorry, 12 subscribers away from 250,000 subs. We are very, very close. Just about 10 minutes to go until SpaceX should hopefully be go for prop load. We're under an hour away now from liftoff of Flight 12. I'll take another question here from Bleary09. What views would you want to see of launch that we haven't seen yet? Mine would be external views of reentry from a tracking cam. That would be really neat. And I think I don't know if it's happening on this flight, but I know in the past there have been aerial assets out in the Indian Ocean that have supposedly at least attempted to track the vehicle through reentry. I don't know if that's going to happen on this flight, but that certainly would be really cool if we could see external views of reentry. It's certainly not going to be a dim a dim reentry for sure. But I think we got a lot of really cool new views in the broadcast yesterday, especially the views inside of the ship. I knew that the ship's aft section was a lot emptier than it was for version 2 with the elimination of the aft cavity and moving a lot of those systems elsewhere on the vehicle. But I guess I'd never really registered to me that it would just be like the aft dome and the engines, and that was it. Like that looked insane. So that view during hot staging would be really, really neat to see.
Yeah, agreed. I think I would like to see a ground tracking angle from the ship landing. Now, I mean, I assume that they were probably planning to do that, which is why they, introduced the recovery team. And that kind of got cut off. It sounded like they were having trouble with the Starlink connection. Oh, sorry, the helicopter is taking off right now, so I'm assuming they're probably going to clear the roadblock here soon, more than likely. Yeah, so I would like to see that ground tracking view from the moment it comes in view for them, all the way down. And I mean, as much because we've seen it from the ship's view multiple times at this point, so I definitely would rather see the ground tracking view. And as far as other views on the vehicle, I don't know. I feel like the grid fins are now going to have, I don't think there are cameras on the grid fins. I'm not sure, actually. I think the grid fins could provide a really cool view now that they're with them being on the side, instead of the previous arrangement that they had. I mean, you could almost create like a double-sided view, like a left eye and a right eye view using those two cameras would be really cool. I think there's a few other new cameras on the booster. And I know there's some new ones on the ship. I can't remember off the top of my head where they're located.
I believe I do remember there being talk of a view on the booster that's a lot lower down on the vehicle, like closer to the aft. I might be misremembering, but I feel like there was something like that. Another view that'd be really cool to see, and hopefully we will at some point, is that view of all the 33 engines inside the pad. That during liftoff is going to be really neat.
Yeah, I something tells me they're not going to show it during ignition this time, but I would like to. I mean, because the external view on ignition is going to be crazy, so I have a feeling they're not going to show that view on ignition. But maybe post launch that may be something that they release afterward. During what they did show during the I don't think it was during the documentary. It was during the other video that they posted on X. Um, it seemed like the camera got overwhelmed a little bit by the plume, more so than it did previously. But again, they kind of cut it early. They cut it right at main chamber ignition, which was interesting. So I do wonder if it will actually even be able to see anything. But if it's anything like it was previously, it should be able to. So we'll see.
All right, and it sounds like SpaceX are go for prop load. We just got an update from them, so that's actually 5 minutes earlier than we expected. So good milestone there, and we can see the tower vent is chuffing away. So we are moving through the countdown, still targeting 5:30 Central, it seems. And I've seen a few people ask this question, a few people asking if they're planning on catching the booster today. They are not. Booster 19 will be splashing down in the Gulf a few minutes after launch. That's just because it's a new iteration of the vehicle. They want to make sure that they can do a simulated tower catch with it before they actually go for it for real. Same goes for the ship. And the actual flight profile for this mission is not too crazy different from some of the previous tests that we've seen recently, some of the last flights of V2. Of course, liftoff and ascent under the 33 Raptor 3 engines, and then we'll see hot staging, the flip maneuver on the booster, a boost back with either 13 or all 33 engines. We're not entirely sure at this point. So that might be something different, assuming that the SpaceX webcasters were not misspeaking yesterday. But we'll see a landing burn with the inner 13 and then down selecting to are they down selecting to 3 or 5 this
5.
time?
5.
Okay. So yeah,
Allegedly.
that is a difference this time around. But splash down in the Gulf, and then the ship goes on its suborbital trajectory. It will deploy 20 Starlink satellite simulators that are similar in design to Starlink V3, including 2 modified satellites that we learned yesterday are affectionately known by SpaceX as the Dodger Dogs. And those are testing some hardware that will actually fly on Starlink V3. Among that, they've also got some imagers that they're going to try and get pictures of Starship's heat shield from space. So if we can get that downlinked live, which I am going to remain cautiously optimistic about that. But if we can, that would be the first external views of Starship from orbit, which would be pretty neat. And then, of course, like a few other flights recently, we will get a Raptor relight test of one of the 3 Raptor 3 sea level engines, and then reentry and splashdown in the Indian Ocean. And one minor change is they'll be down selecting to just 1 engine on splashdown instead of 2, like in the previous flights. But for the most part, the broad flight profile is pretty much the same as it was on flights 10 and 11. But we are now go for prop load on both stages. So we will see, hopefully, that frost line start climbing up on the ship in about 10 or 12 minutes. That's when LOX load will start on the ship. About 4 minutes after that, we will see both LOX and liquid methane load start on Super Heavy. And those frost lines are going to climb significantly faster than previously. It's pretty nuts how fast they are able to fuel both of the stages now. We started out at Flight 1. It took about 90 minutes to fully load Starship, and then they brought it down to 45. And now with version 3, they are capable of fully loading both stages of the vehicle in just 32 minutes. The largest rocket ever flown fuels up in half an hour. It is insane. And we will actually be able to see the frost line climb in pretty much real time. You can actually keep track of how full the vehicles are as they're being filled. I mentioned this yesterday, but there are points in the countdown where you can look at the frost line and turn away for 30 seconds and then look back, and there's a noticeable change. And that process, we should start seeing that start in about 10 minutes. Maybe because the go for prop load happened a little earlier, it might be a little less than 10 minutes. And guys, we are at 249,998 subscribers. We have two more until we hit that 250K milestone. If we could get two people in chat to subscribe to the channel, we will hit 250,000 subscribers in the middle of the countdown for Starship Flight 12. So if you are not subscribed and you like what you see, please hit that button and get us there to that number.
Wow, all this venting looks crazy right now.
Yeah, I saw some people asking earlier if the if the tank farm was okay, if everything was doing all right, but it is fine. And I'm getting word now that we just now hit 250,000 subs on the channel. Thank you guys so much for that. In the middle of the countdown for Starship Flight 12, we have hit 250,000 subs on Avid Space. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support over the years. An awesome milestone.
Got to make it stick this time.
Yes, let's just make it stay there. All of you people
YouTube's
thinking about
always removing
do
bots.
not do it.
It's really interesting watching these the cannon vents squirt out liquid over the wall. And that's really something I would love to get more info about what that's about. We thought we had it figured out, but we thought it had something to do with detanking, but it clearly does not. So so 47 seconds out, or sorry, wow, 47 minutes out, and 7 minutes out from prop load. So we should be transitioning soon, which will be awesome.
Yeah, everything seems to be proceeding pretty well.
And I know I can't hear it, but are we piping in any of the pad audio currently?
All right, sounds like we're having some issues with the pad audio, so we cannot pipe that in just yet. But yeah, we are 47 minutes away. Moving right along through the countdown. No delays yet, which yesterday we had a couple of 30-minute delays for weather, but we are 85% go today. Everything's looking good on the vehicle and the pad as well. I have a pretty good feeling about today. Maybe the 250K milestone will give us a little bit of good luck as well.
Okay, yeah, I misspoke earlier about the prop load because I was looking at the go for prop load, and which is counting up. I just looked back at it. I was like, wait, why is the time increasing? Yeah, it's going to be nice to see whether or not they've ironed out all of the issues that led to multiple holds that we saw last time. But as always, you know, that's kind of just part of it, especially with this being a completely new vehicle, completely new pad. We're basically back in flight 1 territory, so really anything can happen. And you know, I feel pretty confident that they've gotten it figured out, but I don't think we've ever seen like a repeat issue.
Yeah, I don't think so in any of the flights. I think most of the time when there's been a scrub due to a technical issue, they've gotten it figured out. And like we talked about earlier, a lot of work was done on that retract pin for the QD arm. So hopefully that is worked out now. We had a couple more donations come in from just Martin, both of them £5 sterling. Thank you so much for that, Martin. Now, I'm not entirely aware what the free Just Martin stuff means. As I understand it, it's probably some kind of in-joke here at Avid, but I'm a little newer than a lot of you guys, so I'm not quite up to speed on that. I aspire to one day understand all of the in-jokes.
I always notice like all the birds flying around. I wonder what kind of launch cadence they have to reach before the birds see the tower vent and just leave the area for 2 hours.
Yeah. Can SpaceX induce natural selection through Starship?
Pattern recognition, yeah. Wow, that tank farm is basically completely hidden right now. I'm looking at one of the other angles from the Rocket Ranch camera.
Yeah, it is really going.
Once again, the wind is cooperating though, because if it's blowing a slightly different direction, I think 90 degrees or right now it's blowing to the west. And if it blows to the south, then we're not going to see anything other than the ship because it'll completely eclipse the booster basically. So hopefully it keeps moving in that same direction.
Yeah, there were people asking earlier if something was going wrong with the tank farm because of all the venting. Nope, that is just how it looks when they're into prop load.
Yeah, initially I thought we might be able, like it would be less obtrusive, I guess, as far as views go. But with the increased pump capacity that they have, so they've basically moved up. I think they increased the amount of pumps that they're running by like 40%. So they're just producing so much more vapor with the propellant loading process through the subcoolers. So yeah, I mean it's quite a lot, and you can see when it's the tower and the farm doing it at the same time, it gets pretty crazy. And right now it looks like the wind's actually dying down a little bit, and so it's kind of staying closer to the tower. But that's also definitely liquid pouring out as well. You can kind of see that. Which means we are very close to prop load once that liquid starts pouring out. Obviously, you're seeing the vapor, not the liquid itself, but I mean, you could see that it's liquid through the vapor. It's pretty obvious how fast it's falling.
There were a few people mentioning in chat also that the higher humidity levels today also make a big difference in the venting.
Wow. It's just a pool of liquid oxygen on the pad right now.
Don't think you'd want to splash that puddle.
Yeah, hopefully all sources of flames are hidden. And I think we're getting, so we're what, 2 minutes out now? We should see that tower vent stop soon.
Yep, 2.5 minutes.
As soon as it does, that'll be the sign that we've started prop load.
Yep. And it'll be about 10 minutes, a little over 10 minutes until we get the SpaceX feed as well. I'll go ahead and bring up another question here. We'll go with this is one from Ixie92X. What is the small white tower looking thing in the distance on the beach? I believe, is that referring to what is on screen right now to the right of the vehicle, or
that would be the air separation plant. So it's still under construction right now, but they are basically planning to produce their own liquid oxygen, liquid nitrogen, and argon. So that's basically what that is for. It's not active currently, but once it is, they'll basically be able to directly fill the tanks from that facility.
Yeah, SpaceX have talked a long time since like the first environmental assessments of the Starbase site that they intend to make their own propellant. So long time coming for that. I can get through this one real quick. Were all of the resets at 40 seconds due to the arm pin, or were some of them for other issues talking about yesterday? So there were 5 total resets, I believe, and the first 2 were for, I don't think they were for issues on the vehicle. It was just the SpaceX teams needed a little more time to get everything dialed in for the count. And then the third time that we held, there was an issue with the flame diverter on the pad, and they got that worked out. And then holds 4 and 5, the last 2, those were because of the retract pin on the QD arm, and they believed they had fixed it, but a little bit afterward, they went back and they were like, "Oh no, we actually need more time for this. We can't launch today." So only the last 2 of the 5 holds were due to the QD arm pin.
We just passed into the point where they should be loading propellant on the ship, but the tower vent is still going. I do believe they start locks first. So yeah, that once we see that vent close on the tower, then that will be our indication that they've started. Still a pretty heavy waterfall at the moment.
Yeah, we're still in waterfall mode. But once we see that frost line come up on the vehicles, it's going to start climbing real quick. And I do want to mention, because this is a good view to show it, you see all of those white spots on Ship 39. In the past, if you're familiar, of course, SpaceX have removed tiles from the ships to test out how they can handle reentry of missing tiles. But this time around, those white spots are not missing tiles. Those are tiles that are installed on the heat shield but are painted white. And the reasoning for that is those are tracking targets for the cameras that they have down on the ground. I believe it's primarily for reentry. I'm sure they could also use it during Ascent as well, but those are not missing tiles. In fact, there's only 1 tile on the vehicle that has been intentionally removed this time around, and it's not even to see how the vehicle handles missing tiles. They've already got a bunch of good data from that from the version 2 flights. This time, that 1 removed tile is to see how adjacent tiles that are next to missing tiles structurally hold up during reentry. So unlike some previous flights, we have almost a full heat shield this time around. Those are just painted tiles. They are not missing.
Yeah, I don't know if we actually found the missing one.
Yeah, I haven't seen any images of it, and SpaceX didn't talk about it on the webcast yesterday. I'm trying to see if I can find any further information about that right now.
All right, the tower vent just stopped right there, so I think we should be in propellant loading on the ship now. About a minute late, 2.5 minutes late, actually.
Good news there.
May actually start seeing some vapors coming off of the QD hoses soon. I think you can kind of see it a little bit.
Yes. Okay, I just found this. So the white painted tiles actually are for the 2 Starlink satellites that are going to be imaging the heat shield in space. That's what those are for. That makes more sense. So that's for the Dodger dogs, as SpaceX are calling them.
Did they say why they call them that?
Yeah, I think it's because they're slightly longer than some of the other Starlink sims because they're simulating the actual Starlink V3 sats. So they're calling them Dodger dogs, referring to the ballpark hot dogs, which are of course pretty long. I think that's why.
I
I
thought
know it was
maybe they
something
were.
relating to the length.
I thought maybe they have to actually dodge the ship or something like that.
Someone said the missing tile is close to the nose cone area on the right side of the vehicle.
We do have an official tweet from SpaceX now saying that propellant load is underway, and we can also see the vapors on the QD umbilicals more now. So we should start seeing that prop line fill on the ship soon, probably momentarily. And then everything's going to go really fast from there. And
All right,
just to reiterate that from yesterday, we will be piping in some of the SpaceX audio. If anything is very repetitive from yesterday, we may talk over some of that stuff possibly, but I know that a lot of people do like to actually hear what SpaceX is saying, which is fairly obvious. I'm one of those people as well too. So, but I'm assuming a lot of people who are in here now were probably also in here yesterday and may have heard all that stuff before. So we will kind of just play it by ear on that.
Yeah, when we bring up the SpaceX feeds, we'll of course have them pulled up for the video, but assuming that most of what they talk about is just going to be what they talked about yesterday, we'll kind of keep our commentary going, and if we see something interesting that maybe we didn't see yesterday, we'll bring the audio up from SpaceX. And then of course during launch, we'll also we'll keep quiet and let you guys listen into the rocket. Yeah, you can see some of those vapors coming off the QD arm now. And here's a good question. This is actually one that I have my guesses as to the answer for this, but I'm not 100% sure. It's from Lucid. What's the reason that they start loading propellant on stage 2 before the booster?
That's a good question. I'm actually not sure. I don't think it takes any longer. Like if they really wanted to, they could time it out so that both of them finish at the same time, which I think they do anyways. But I'm not sure. I mean, you'd almost think you would want to start it second since the ship has to wait. It has an additional like 2 minutes of time where the propellant is warming up before it actually second stage ignition. So you would think that they would actually want to load the ship second. And as I'm saying that, we are finally starting to see that frost line on the LOX tank right there. But yeah, I don't think they've ever actually, as far as I know, said why they do the ship first.
Yeah, you would think that the booster would come first, considering that one, it has more propellant, and yeah, two, the ship takes a little longer to get the prop to the right temps. And wow, look
Wow,
at that
look how
frost
fast
line. Yeah. Oh man. It's like I said earlier, you can see it rising in real time. We don't even need a propellant percentage indicator. We can just use our eyeballs.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
like every time you look
awesome.
away, you look back and you can see even more.
We're coming up now. Should be just about a minute or two before SpaceX goes live. Oh, psych. They're live right now. I cannot stop watching this frost line go up. It is insane that this is not sped up footage.
I don't understand why I'm always late on getting the SpaceX broadcast, because it's just not starting yet on my side.
We just had Lucid in the back tell Zach that he has a skill issue.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing something wrong. Oh. Well, that's very frustrating.
Just got a super chat come in, $50 from Inden Star. Am I saying that right? Hopefully.
Indian
saying, let's
Star?
light this candle. Thank you very much for your support.
Yeah, I am trying to figure out why my stream is not starting.
So our next big milestone, we're now into, you can see the frost lines. Both tanks on ship 39 are being filled with propellant now, locks on the bottom and liquid methane on the top. So we are well into that process now. Our next milestone in about a little under 7 minutes will be engine chill. We should also be well into propellant load on Super Heavy. SpaceX have got their views live on X now. We'll see if Nicki Minaj will show up again this time.
Factory, where the team's preparing for Starship's 12th test flight.
Yeah, yesterday was certainly a nail biter as we recycled to the T-minus 40 second hold a couple of times. And while we unfortunately weren't able to lift off, keep in mind that this is the first flight of a completely redesigned vehicle. So we actually learned a lot in what became a wet dress rehearsal yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. And Starship version 3 has undergone significant upgrades, taking everything we've learned from the previous 11 flights to make a vehicle capable of full and rapid reusability.
We're debuting a new launch pad, new booster, new ship, and new engines, just to name a few.
Yeah, that's right. And as a member of the Raptor team, I can tell you we're all super excited to finally see the newest generation of Raptor engines.
All right, so it seems like they're just running through most of the same stuff they talked about yesterday. Saw a great view of Super Heavy's Raptor engines there just a second ago.
Wow. It's just crazy how clean the pad looks. And
Yeah,
the funny
I
thing
was about
is,
to say that.
for the most part, they don't even really have to. This is like something that makes me laugh, because they don't necessarily have to clean a lot of it, because the Deluge system for the top deck does a lot of that for them. Especially the water tanks. The water tanks are like pretty much, you could eat off of them at this point. But yeah, it's the pad is just so much cleaner with how much they've been running that system. It's just near spotless.
I see that little puddle off to the left of the pad. Well, it's not really a puddle.
So yeah,
it's probably the size of a pool.
I think so what we've actually discovered is that they can actually offload water into there. Like, it's not just, we thought that they were sucking the water out after tests, but it turns out that they are actually offloading water into that pond. So let's say that they use 30 trucks worth of water during a test, but then they order 35. I think that's what happened there, is that all of the extra just got dumped there, and it can be pumped into the tanks as needed. Really odd.
Huh. So it's
and
just like a big
unexpected.
surplus pool of water.
Yeah. hmm So that's a correction I'll have to make at the beginning of my next episode, because we thought it was the opposite, that it was all stormwater, which apparently is only partially true.
And then the Gateway to Mars sign right next to the pad that they just recently put back up looks pretty awesome. I remember when they were still doing the hop tests, where the landing pad was basically surrounded by just a bunch of random miscellaneous equipment, and now the pad is just super clean. It almost felt like a while ago that they were conducting those operations in, someone mentioned in chat, in essentially a junkyard, which it wasn't junk, all of that equipment and hardware, but it certainly looked
Debatable.
scrappy.
That's debatable.
Yeah, sure. Some of it was chunks of scrap, but it became junk after the flight in many cases. We'll see if Dan's got any new information for us real quick.
The rocket getting frosty. We're on track to launch at the top of our window at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Weather has been gorgeous. Thank you to everybody who was outside yelling at clouds that got us weather yesterday. It extended into today, and we are looking at a green range right now. Functionally, today's countdown, identical to yesterday. It looks very similar to previous Starship flight tests. Some minor differences in timing on things like when we start propellant load, when the water starts flowing on the diverter, when our engines start up. But all the hardware is new booster, new ship, new engines, new pad. Let's do another quick look at everything that's debuting today with Starship version 3. As Kate noted, some of the outside will look familiar, but we've made extensive upgrades across the entire system.
All right, so yeah, just running through a bunch of the upgrades that they've done on version 3, which we've talked about throughout the stream. I think another thing that's really cool is you can see the noticeable difference in the height of the frost lines on the two booster tanks because of how long, or not, it's not a particularly long time, but because of the little bit of extra time it takes for them to fill up the transfer tube with the methane. That's my favorite view so far right there inside the engine section of the ship. Super cool. Coming up now on engine chill in less than a minute. And as Dan mentioned, weather's looking great and no issues on the vehicle, so we are still counting down 22 minutes to go. Raptor 3 engines. We deleted all of the bulky engine shrouds from previous generations, all of the prop, avionics hardware, everything for that super tightly integrated now, protected by much slimmer shielding. Up on the second stage, Starship version 3 design. Man, I really hope we get that imagery from the Dodger Dogs downlinked live. That would be so cool. Propulsion system got a complete redesign, increased our propellant take volume, improved our steering on orbit. In the payload bay, the PEZ dispenser supercharged. That's going to increase the deploy speed for each of our satellites. How are we feeling confidence-wise, Zach, on this flight? Has it changed at all from yesterday? What we think the outcome's going to be?
No. I mean, I still feel pretty good, especially for the booster. I think we're going to be just overall surprised by everything the booster does today, even though we know it's going to jump off of the pad way faster than it has in the past. I think it's still going to be pretty shocking to actually see it. I think the ship is going to be the bigger question. But you know, the if they do actually do 33 engines on boost back, that does introduce an area of greater concern than the past, I would say. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, the super heavy team does have a bit of a track record of surprising us with how much progress they've been able to make. We talked about that yesterday. That super heavy, in many regards, has been the more impressive milestone or the more impressive accomplishment between the two stages. Not to diminish anything that the ship has done, of course, but it's pretty nuts what they've been able to do with the most powerful rocket booster ever built. And it's been a talking point a little bit because this is the first flight of Raptor 3. If we'll lose any engines on the way up, I am actually going to go out and say that I don't think we will. And I think if we do, it's only going to be like 1 or 2. I don't think loss of engines is as big of a concern as it has been. Because the only time that we've ever seen them lose a substantial amount was on Flight 1, and that was not the rocket's fault. So...
Yeah, we also changed the actuators driving those chopsticks from hydraulics to 100% electromechanical, increasing their speed, redundancy, and reliability. On the ground, the launch mount was also completely redesigned. And
we had another super chat come in, £2 sterling, free just Martin. I still don't know what that means, but thank you so much.
Sounding good there, lab.
Have a new bidirectional flame diverter and a new top deck flame deflector to eliminate metal wearing down. So we said goodbye to the pancake. However, this will help us get to 0 refurbishment between launches. Now this pad is still built for maximum safety and fast turnaround because making life multiplanetary will require launching a lot of Starships. Now, it's currently T-minus 18 minutes and 38 seconds. We're going to hop over to Hawthorne for a moment for more on Starlink with Tyler Lionquist. Tyler?
Hey, Kate, thank you so much. I'm Tyler Lionquist, and I'm a Starlink business analyst here at SpaceX. We're excited to be back here in Hawthorne, ready for another attempt at a launch today. So as we talked about yesterday, on today's flight, we're deploying 20 Starlink simulators, plus 2 modified Starlink satellites, which our team internally refers to as Dodger Dogs, because they stretch the V2 mini satellite propellant tank so that it sticks out from both ends of the satellite. And the Dodger Dog serves as a tech demo between the V2 and the V3 Starlink satellites, and acts as a platform for testing V3 components. Now, the larger V3 satellites aim to greatly expand our network's capacity, while V3 hardware is designed to support faster Wi-Fi and improved broadband.
All right, so we're talking about the Starlink simulators that are being launched on this flight, including those 2 Dodger Dogs. And yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of version 3, in SpaceX's own words, is to enable the core capabilities of Starship. Among those, the ability to deploy the Starlink version 3 constellation, which SpaceX have definitely wanted to get up there for a very long time, because it is a huge step up in capability from version 2. Had another $20 super chat come in from 55 Chevy guy Steve. Thank you so much. Another regular here in chat. He also donated yesterday, so we appreciate that extended support. This was another thing SpaceX talked about. They're showing it right now, but they're also wanting to take Starlink to the moon, which I thought was pretty neat. We've always kind of assumed that that was a plan, that's something that they were going to do at some point, but they've never really talked about it too much. So it's nice to see that official confirmation that we're going to get Starlink around the moon.
Yeah, there's
using those laser
so many reasons to do that, like the imaging capabilities of Starlink as well. They could map out the moon's surface a lot faster.
There's the 2001 monolith that we saw yesterday. But yeah, especially even with the Orion spacecraft that's being used for Artemis, it also uses laser communications for its live views. So laser comms, I think, has been it's been somewhat overlooked, but it's been one of the most remarkable advances in space technology in recent years, which we've known how to do it for a long time. It's just only in the past 5 or 6 years has it actually become widespread. Of course, Starlink uses it now, and we'll be using it around the moon, so that's going to be awesome. Another $20 donation here from Yazada. Thank you so much. I believe that's 3 or 4 donations now that we've had from Yazada. Always appreciate the extended support.
There are numerous redesigns making their debut today across the entire launch vehicle. In light of this, we want to keep our learning focused on all of that new hardware.
15 minutes now until our expected T0 for Starship Flight 12. Everything continuing to look good. 12 minutes out from the completion of propellant load on the booster, and then about a minute later we'll be on the ship. And then it is go time.
Where the booster shuts down all but 5 sustainer engines. Stage 2 then lights its Raptor engines while still attached to Super Heavy, where we see stage separation, debuting the integrated hot stage, directional booster flip, and engine relight for boost back using 33 engines. And after coasting for a few minutes, the booster today will target a landing burn and soft splashdown a few miles off from the coast of Starbase.
Ship keeps it going with Ascent burn to a suborbital trajectory.
Did they say
then we'll
33
deploy
engines
20
again?
Starlink simulator satellites and 2 Dodger dogs, as we affectionately call them.
Well,
we also plan to relight a single Raptor engine.
Fool me once.
Next will be re-entry a few minutes later. For the first time in a while, we're intentionally not messing with Starship's heat shield. At that point, we should have some amazing views of the ship's Technicolor re-entry through Earth's atmosphere. If all of that goes as planned, we'll finish the test with a landing flip, a landing burn, and a soft water splashdown in the Indian Ocean. And in just a few moments, thanks to Starlink, we'll be going live to the Indian Ocean and chatting once again with the ship recovery team stationed out there.
Yeah, I'm super excited about
if they have the same kid this time.
But sit tight because we're going to go to Dan for a quick status check.
That was something yesterday. But yeah, they just confirmed all 33 engines are going to be lit up for the boost back. That is, wow.
Amazing vehicle and pad, both looking healthy. We are a little over 80% on fuel, 95 on LOX in the ship, and then a little more than 2/3 it's looking like on booster. So we are on track today, looking good for a launch right now at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. All right, so we're going to do that right at the top of our window. Once again, though, we're going to be targeting to send Starship around the world for a splashdown in the Indian Ocean. We had a really quick check-in yesterday with the Starship recovery team out there on station. They're helping us to maintain the range and a whole lot more. So let's jump back out there once more today. We've got Suren Sunai joining us live from the boat deck out in the Indian Ocean, a couple 100 miles off the coast of Australia. Suren, how's it going, man? Welcome to the Flight 12 webcast. How's everything looking out there in the landing zone?
Dan, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm not going to lie to you, it's a little rougher than it was yesterday. Nighttime, it's hard to see the horizon, but we're looking at about 10-foot seas, and we're loving it, but it's rough.
All right, what's your guys' primary job out there? I mean, you're out kind of in the middle of nowhere. What are you guys doing?
So, like as you mentioned, like it's usually a 500 to 600 nautical mile sail from shore. And our primary goal is as a range clearing group. So like we come out here and make sure there's no one else in the area so the rocket can launch. But that kind of allows us to do our second goal, which is to conduct imagery of the rocket as it re-enters and as it splashes down. We get a lot of other data, but like the primary one is for sure imagery with an ensemble of maritime and aerial-based assets.
And talk to us a little bit, because it's evolved over time, kind of humble beginnings of getting those views, to talk us through where we've gotten to now today.
Yeah, I think some people know, but like the Markset bots are quite identifiable. That's the buoys that we use. And they were originally used as sailboat racers. And we kind of put them in as a Hail Mary attempt on Flight 5 to get imagery of the rocket as it came down. And we all thought it maybe would have worked, but we were super shocked and really pleased to see all of the buoys pointed right at the rocket as it came down, which was a testament to not only the scrappy engineering we were able to put together, but also the rocket's ability to land right on target. And then since then, we've kind of iterated more and more, and these buoys have become way more robust and have now a lot more data collection materials, not just visual imagery. And as a result, they kind of are the most mature versions they've ever been. And it's really cool because almost all the buoys that we're deploying even now for Flight 12, we just got them off our back deck a few hours ago, are the exact same ones that were used for Flight 5.
And I saw a couple of user terminals. How's Starlink kind of playing a role in this entire operation?
Dan, I'm not gonna lie to you. If we didn't have Starlink out here, we would be screwed. Like just on like a usual basis of like working, we're allowed to like have calls with each other and like work on documents with each other, send things to each other in like a very timely manner because of the Starlink on the boat. But not only that, each one of these buoys is equipped with a standard Starlink Mini, the one you would just get from like ordering it commercially, and that allows us to not only operate the buoy remotely, but also to get live stream data and telemetry, which is honestly super useful, and I don't think we have another solution for it without Starlink.
All right, before I let you go, what's it like? You're out there, and then all of a sudden, Starship appears out of the sky. What's that feel like, man?
Dan, I can't lie to you. It feels awesome. Just like being on the boat, not seeing any land for miles and miles, and then hearing the Starship crack down with its sonic booms and watching it breach through the sky, it is one of the most magical feelings on Earth, and really excited to feel that again today.
All right, well, thanks, Suren. Good luck, man. Hopefully we're sending a rocket your way real soon. Thanks for joining us in, man. I'm going to send it now back down to Kate and Jake for the latest progress we're making at Cape Canaveral in Florida.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, really
now,
quick.
if we want to get
can
to
somebody
the moon
explain to me
and
why
then
it was
Mars
nighttime this time, but it was daytime last time they had him on?
I'm guessing.
I don't.
Well, it was like an hour later last time, so maybe it was like right after sunrise last time. Maybe the sun just hasn't come up yet. I don't know. That was a little weird. But yeah, so they're just talking about Cape Canaveral now, the pad that they're building down there. We got some good footage of that progress on the last webcast. Yeah, there it is. They've been making some really solid progress at 39A. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but hopefully we'll be seeing the first flight from there as soon as this year.
Expand our capabilities to support Starship launches in the future, while also continuing to support Falcon Heavy missions from the original Apollo shuttle Falcon launch tower.
Yeah, and we're not done.
8 minutes to go. Still looking like
It's interesting
everything's
that they
going
show
well.
video of construction at 39A in a way that they don't do at Starbase.
I wonder if, well, I was going to say, I wonder if it's like different rules for like imagery at Kennedy Space Center, but I feel like I feel like it'd be more restrictive at Kennedy than at Starbase. So,
well, I mean,
don't know.
it's technically their decision what they can and can't show, but I guess maybe it's because they know we can see everything here, so they don't need to show it.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Just SpaceX communications in general have taken a step up lately, though, so I'm not sure.
Kate and Jared, I don't know if today will be quite as cool as doing a spacewalk, but we're going to try our best to make it as exciting.
Is that Jared?
Thanks for joining us here today, man. You had a heck of an entrance on the way in.
It's great to be here. Yep, certainly great to do a little bit of a flyby. I think they should accompany all the great rocket launches, and we certainly got a great rocket out there on the pad. But wonderful to be back, and no surprise, it's always changing here. It looks amazing.
I was going to say, it's been a couple of years. What was your impression flying in? It just the lay of the land.
Well, I think it was actually maybe 10 months ago. I was here slinging pizzas. I got a new job now, but it was. There's been so much that's changed even since then. Yeah, the facilities look amazing. All the housing that's coming in here, and of course, you got 2 orbital launch pads out there and a rocket that's just looking fantastic, especially from the air. It's good.
Yeah, you said you got a new job. It's been a slow start to your first 6 months. I mean, you only sent humans around the moon for the first time since the Apollo days. Bill and I kind of nerded out a little bit. Like, that was the last thing I worked on when I was at NASA, so seeing them go was just insane. Like, how's everybody feeling after the success of Artemis 2?
Well, I'd say I have the best job in the world, and I certainly work with an unbelievable team. I mean, as you know, that mission was a long time in the making, so I got to show up at the right time to see everybody put all that effort to put it in action. But what a great mission. Those 4 astronauts, you couldn't have had better ambassadors for humankind to the stars. I mean, they really brought us all along for 10 days, and we're getting ready for what comes next. We're going to start stacking Artemis 3. We got a lot of the hardware in the VAB already. We're hoping to even get out to the pad before the end of the year, do another wet dress. So,
all right.
And we're looking forward to seeing this thing fly, because hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, we're gonna join up in Earth orbit.
Yeah, I mean, what's coming up next, and ultimately, like, based on the moon, that's the big focus. Like, what's kind of the why? Like, why are we doing this for everybody?
Oh, well, I mean, and yes, we're certainly trying to get back to the moon, but what's coming up next? We're also building a moon base in parallel. And why are we doing that? Well, it's for a lot of the shirts I see around here, which is Occupy Mars. I mean, what a great opportunity. Go to the moon, return to the moon, build a moon base on the South Pole, interact with the water ice, right? Maybe work on some of those skills we're going to need when we're 4 days away from home for what we might need someday when we're 9 months away from home. But we got other things coming up too. You got Nancy Grace Roman, that telescope's going to launch later this summer. There's a lot of great, exciting things going on at NASA right now.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, SpaceX, we're custom built to try and make life multiplanetary. We're super honored, excited to be part of this entire Artemis program. Really excited to see Starship, sending people to the moon, all of the different pieces working together. It's going to be a really exciting future.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me here. It's great to see everybody. Again, I know a lot of hard work leads up to a moment like this, so we're all rooting for you, and we're looking forward to meeting up next year in Earth orbit.
All right, man. Well, I'll let you jump back in there. Got about 4 minutes to go. I'll just toss it back down to Kate and Jake.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say we could listen to you guys yap about the moon pretty much all day. It's so inspiring to hear about the future of exploration on the moon. And if you caught the show yesterday, you also heard some more future space exploration.
All right, guys, I'm headed out to go
that's
put
right.
my hands on
From
the cam.
to Mission Commander Chun Wang will be one of the first humans to become an interplanetary traveler.
Godspeed.
Don't think I've ever said that word before. Well, also joining
the time
Starship
is at hand.
Well, that was certainly a better webcast guest, or a more exciting webcast guest, I'd say, than Nicki Minaj. Jared Isaacman showing up in the flight suit there because he and a couple other guys did a flyby of the pad earlier today in their F5s. So that was pretty neat to hear from the NASA administrator and former head of the Polaris program. We are 3.5 minutes out from launch, and I'll just take a second to mention right here, you may have noticed a couple of times during our broadcast that our countdown is about 10 seconds ahead of SpaceX's. That's totally normal. It is not that we are ahead. It's actually that SpaceX's webcast is a little delayed from real time. So you are going to see liftoff happen on our views about 10 seconds before it does on SpaceX's. That is totally expected, so do not worry. Just got a super chat come in, $5 from Jay Putz saying, thank you, Zach, for the knowledge. Of course, we always appreciate having an expert like Zach on the stream. There are very, very few people that know more about these systems than he does.
Starship and Super Heavy. We're going to get the pad itself ready, push back all of the propellant that's in those lines running from the farm up to the launch.
Everything is continuing to look good. We're about 2.5 minutes out from liftoff of the first version 3 Starship vehicle. We're getting into crunch time now.
Steering check that'll happen at T-minus 100 seconds, and then after we get through T-minus 40. If you tuned in yesterday, you're very familiar. If we need to hold, we can go into what's called rapid recycle, essentially, where we can hang out at T-minus 40 seconds. It's built in. We're only going to hold if there's an issue, not currently tracking one. They can pop up after we pass T-minus 40, but right now we're looking good. Hopefully going to move right past that.
And then once we do pass T-minus 40 seconds, a number of events will occur in quick succession. That is when the QD vent gate, or quick disconnect vent gate, will clear the gas commodity lines that connect the pad to the vehicles. Both the ship and the booster will configure their comm systems for flight and will rapidly run leak checks on gas and fluid tanks. And the booster goes to internal power, and its engines will get their final priming for launch, while the ship's engines begin their ascent bleed profile and arms the automatic flight safety system.
Yeah, and once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, we still have the ability to rapidly recycle the count under certain...
That's crazy from that view. So they're part of the closeout. They vent all the rest of the oxygen and methane from the propellant lines. And right now, those two streams of gases are crossing over each other. A little methalox plume down there.
important to make sure that they can steer.
Yeah, that's
We had a
exactly right.
$10 donation come in from
And,
Melanie
flight
Wilson.
diverter
Thank you
pad
so
two
much, Melanie, for your
activates at
extended
around
support.
T-17
60 seconds to
and
go
that's where
now.
it's essentially the point of no return at T-10 seconds. If we have a hold close to T-17 seconds, there's a chance we could recycle, but the closer we get to T-10, the lower that chance becomes.
Let's
We just
see
heard
if
we're at
we are
3
going
seconds
to
per minute.
hold
Yeah,
at
so
40
this point in
seconds.
time, we're going to stop talking. We're going to let the rocket take over and listen to some amazing pad sounds of the first flight of Starship version 3.
Looks like we're holding.
All right, we are holding. We were just waiting for the fuel pushbacks to complete into the prop farm. We did hear that that did just complete, so expecting them to reset that hold shortly.
Okay, sweet. So it's not an issue. Looks like they just need a little extra time.
Clock, the hold is reset, clock is rolling.
Here we go.
Flight directors go for launch.
There's the Deluge.
9, 8,
Ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, ignition.
And liftoff of the first version 3 Starship, enabling the core capabilities of the largest launch vehicle ever built. Looks like we got 33 good Raptor 3 engines. Look at those Mach diamonds.
All right, we are T plus 30 seconds into flight, seeing 33 out of 33 Raptor 3 engines on booster V3.
Wow.
Ascending over the Gulf now, coming up on maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Booster and ship, avionics
Some
power,
great
telemetry
tracking
nominal.
views from our cams.
Systems looking good. We're just passing through the
Max
period of
Q.
maximum dynamic pressure.
Through max Q.
A little over a minute into flight now. Vibrations chilling out here at Star Factory as we continue to watch Starship Flight 12 arc out
Still
over the
got
Gulf. The next
33
major
good
thing
engines.
coming up is going to be hot staging.
Booster prop systems nominal.
Reminder, we do what's our version of MECO. Most engines cut off, so we're going to shut down all but 5 of the Raptor engines on the booster. And then after that happens, we're going to ignite the 6 engines on ship while it is still attached. We have clamps that hold the 2 together. Those are going to retract inside of that hot stage ring, kind of protect them. We had one.
Looks like we
of the
lost an
engines
engine
go
on the
out,
outer
still
ring.
flying on 32 of the Raptor engines. But again, once we get the hot staging, those 6 engines on the ship are going to ignite. We're going to do it in a little bit different of a sequence on version 3. Essentially, those 3 RVAC engines will ignite first. Almost immediately after, just one of those central engines is going to ignite. And that's going to give the booster a bit of a kick, sending it in a known direction, followed shortly after by the other 2.
Down to 5.
We're through MECO.
Each separation.
And good hot staging. Oh, those engines look rough.
There you go.
It's super
Successful
heavy.
hot staging
Oh.
separation. We are not seeing as many booster engines ignite as we expected for boost back, but we are seeing 6 good engines lit on ship. It looks like we just had an early boost back shutdown. Again, a reminder, the booster was planned to essentially head into the Gulf for a splashdown, but it has shut its engines down early on into boost back.
Oh, we just lost a RVAC.
And we just see one of the RVACs, so we're now running on 5 engines on ship. We do have engine out capability, so it's going to continue into its ascent.
Booster
We got
is.
booster on the left there, ship on the right.
I can't tell if the booster is tumbling or not.
On bringing the booster back for this flight, as this was the very first time.
Be doing that intentionally.
That was not a very nominal boost back.
All right, so we're about 3 minutes, 50 seconds into today's flight. Just a reminder that the ship planned to burn its engines for about 8 minutes and change. About 8 minutes and 11 seconds was our planned timeline for today. That could shift slightly as we do have one engine out running on one fewer RVACs.
Look at the attitude on the ship. It almost looks like it's facing straight up.
Again, continuing to watch.
Yeah, I think
so
it's
booster
doing that to
did not complete
compensate
its
for that
boost back
RVAC.
burn. We
Yeah, I
did
think
not
so.
see all of the engines ignite that we expected.
What a
Continuing to get
view
some
from the
views from it,
booster.
though. That's going to make a splashdown
Wow.
somewhere in the Gulf. Reminder: we clear
That was
air,
the
sea
camera I was
space,
talking about
everything,
earlier that's lower down.
for these launches.
And Zach, I'm afraid most of that paint is still intact.
Well,
Right,
now
so
is
we
about
are
the time
coming
where
up
it should
on
start to
T
get
plus
peeled off.
5 minutes.
We'll see
Ship
how it looks here
continuing to
shortly.
fire 5 of the 6. Standing by for
But hey, we
call-outs,
lost
making
a
sure
Raptor
ship's
on the way
its
up, and we
planned
kept going, so
trajectory.
it
Again,
seems
we are
like that,
planning a suborbital trajectory for the ship
that
today.
isolation of the engines was doing its job.
Booster giving us some views as it continues to make its way back down towards the water. All right, so a little over 5.5 minutes in flight. Kate, Jake, you guys with me? It looks like Booster's starting to come in hot.
Oh, yeah.
We had the opportunity to stand outside to watch launch, and wow, that was incredible.
Yeah, that was really loud, really shaky, and I was actually surprised how fast the booster got off the pad, or the whole stack. That was quite incredible.
Absolutely.
No!
So we have views here from the booster coming back down, making its way into the Gulf. Pretty cool to
We
see.
have healthy chamber pressures on 5 out of 6 ship Raptor engines.
Great news there
Landing
for
startup.
Starship.
Oh,
Okay.
come on, booster.
Once again, we were not going to bring the super heavy booster back to
Uh-oh.
the tower. We were
Oh, I think we
planning
lost it.
on having it land in the Gulf.
Is that one engine on
And
there?
it looks like the booster ended its mission there in the Gulf, but we've got a ship still flying. Great to see that. Still have 5 out of 6 engines there on S39.
Yes, we also heard good chamber pressures as well on those engines that are lit. We do have engine out capability. We do see that we have one of the RVAC, one of the Raptor vacuum engines that is currently out, but that's okay. Ship is continuing on. Amazing views of
I gotta
planet
say,
Earth
I'm impressed
there
that they
in the
lost an
background.
RVAC and are still going. After
Yeah, I
what
love the
happened on some of the
S39
V2
decal there.
flights.
That just gives the ship a little bit of character. And again, all these great views brought to you by Starlink, of course.
Yeah, that
Obligatory
is-
shout out to the entire Starship avionics, camera, electronics team. Did a whole lot of work to get these upgraded cameras. A look inside of the ship skirt, you can see those 3 center engines ignited. The RVACs continuing to fire as well. We did see
I can't tell
at least
which
a
one
couple
is
engines
not
fire
firing.
up on booster
I
for
guess
that
it's the one
landing
on the
burn
right.
before we lost contact with it.
What is going on? Something's
We
glowing
should
down
have
there.
just a little over 20
that
seconds
just
to
the
go.
sun?
We'll see if the burn
I
extends
think it
a
might be the
little
sun. It
bit.
didn't look like there was like a hot spot anywhere.
For the
Unless
engine
it was
out,
on the
essentially,
RVAC
you
that
can
was
run
blocked.
your engines a little bit longer, or throttle up a little bit more to account for the one engine not being lit. So right now we are standing by for Seco.
See, I don't think Seco's going to happen at the planned time. The ship is not accelerating as fast as it would be normally.
And again, we are continuing to go a little bit longer.
It's getting there, though.
5 engines still burning on ship.
Wow. Definitely going a lot longer.
Coming up on T plus 9 minutes.
Shouldn't be too long until Seco, judging by the velocity.
And
Good
starting
news
to
is it
see
doesn't
shut
affect
down.
reentry.
RVACs have shut down. Sea levels are shut down.
I mean,
Seeing if we can get an
look at that
update
gimbal.
on the ship orbit insertion, but we have shut down again. We did run longer as we were engine out. We were flying with 5 of those 6 Raptors pretty much the whole time.
Ship FTS is saved.
That sounds like good news to me.
All right, well, we definitely got a ship in space right now.
That sounds like a ship on a good trajectory.
As you can see,
I
the
love this view
teams
right
are
here.
incredibly excited to see Starship there in space. We are awaiting the call out.
Oh, are those
of
signatures
nominal,
on the? Oh wait, no, those are just
insertion.
Okay.
So we're going to stand by for that. We can see the flaps moving here, actuating. But wow, the cheers here in the lobby are certainly almost as loud as liftoff was.
Yeah. Man, a lot of action going on. And, you know, we said at the top of the show, excitement guaranteed. And we're only 11 minutes in. We still have a lot more to go here on the mission today. So all objectives are done on the booster. So now all eyes are on the ship as we get ready for our in-space objectives.
Exactly. So like I said, we're still standing by to hear the call out for nominal orbital insertion, but we've got a few minutes before the next milestone. So we're going to continue. We've got some amazing views here of the ship. Wow, it's just that this is our planet. This is our home.
These views get better every time.
Oh yeah. So we clipped the feather on the way up.
As a
but
reminder, the objectives
ship is
for
in
ship
space.
today not only included the separation that we saw, but we're also planning to deploy 20 Starlink simulator satellites, as well as 2 Dodger Dog satellites. That's what our internal teams refer to as our newer satellites. We saw a preview of those earlier. We should see those deployments here in a little bit. We're also hoping to perform a
those
relight of a
clouds
Raptor
down
engine
in
as
the
well.
ocean.
Yep, that's exactly right. And the relight will look a little bit different this time. We're hoping to get a little bit of a longer duration. Of course, we got to see once we get there. And that relight won't actually be changing our orbit necessarily, but we're doing it more so as a technology
Pad looks
demonstration.
pretty good. Looks like it lost some paint.
As expected, it looks good though. I mean, I feel like they should have painted that thing black.
For those of you that maybe just recently tuned in, you missed a pretty exciting almost 13 minutes. We had a liftoff pretty much on time, almost right exactly at 5:30 p.m. We did have a brief hold at the T-minus 40-second period, but we were able to proceed through that, and we saw a gorgeous liftoff. Jake and I were able to stand outside and witness that with all of our colleagues, and what a moment. I'll tell you what, it is a heck of a lot louder out here than it was at Ad Astra.
Absolutely. And A couple things I noticed on the way uphill today on the ship. So obviously it looks like we lost one of the RVACs on the way, but that is a good way to demonstrate our potential engine out capability there. So
Exactly.
I think we actually saw the 3 gimbaling engines kind of gimbal over a little bit to compensate for that offset and thrust. So that was really cool. That's something I know the team's been, we've analyzed that since Flight 1 all the way back. So it's something that we've thought about quite a bit, and it was kind of cool to see it in action in real life today.
Yeah, absolutely. If you couldn't tell, Jake is on the Raptor team.
Yeah. But one non-Raptor thing I noticed also back on the when we had the shot of the aft flaps, it's a little weird. We have tiles on the leeward side, so not on the side where we're going to see heating. And you might be asking, why are we putting tiles there? I had the same question actually. So I talked to some of our heat shield engineers the other day, and we're actually running. Yeah, here's the shot right here. Great. So the fact that we're seeing all these tiles still on the flap right now is really good, because that actually was one of our experiments where we wanted to test different connection methods on the way uphill on ship. So actually Ascent. So it looks like most, if not all, the tiles are still hanging on there. So that's actually a really good data point.
Looks pretty good to me. Now, once again, this view is from the side of Starship, which is basically the second stage of the Starship vehicle as a whole. This is one of the flaps on the vehicle that helps to control its position and attitude as it is orbiting, and also helps to control during reentry as well. That's a critical phase.
They still got the little dragons.
I mentioned
on
earlier
the
that
flaps.
we're hoping to deploy those Starlink satellite simulators, as well as
At least they look kind of like
perform an
dragons.
in-space relight of a Raptor engine. If all of that goes well, we will be targeting a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean. We heard from Suren on the recovery team a little bit earlier. They are standing by waiting to receive the ship that we see here.
All right, let's send it upstairs. Dan, how's it looking?
Hey guys, we are looking good. It does look like we are within bounds of what we analyzed if we were down one of our RVAC engines. So I wouldn't call it nominal orbital insertion, but we're on a trajectory that we had analyzed, and it's within bounds. So team's continuing to work through it with that engine out. They're working through some steps on the engines. We probably will end up skipping the Raptor relight for today, but it sounds like we should still be on for payload deploy, at least at this time. So very dynamic moments right here with the ship, but we do have it in space. It is on a trajectory now, headed towards the other side of the planet, and then a splashdown in the Indian Ocean. It's going to start to get darker. We're heading into an orbital sunset, so we're gonna have darkness for a little bit, and then it'll brighten up once we're on the other side of the planet, and hopefully looking at some good daylight when we re-enter into the Indian Ocean.
So we should be coming up on those Starlink sims. Timeline, I guess, might be pushed back a little bit.
I don't understand the 33 engine boost back. I just don't see how that's going to work long term.
I saw they lit up a lot of engines on the booster during the boost back, it looked like, but
so
a bunch of them just immediately conked out.
Into flight, if you're just now catching up with us, we did see a liftoff right at the top of our window.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to talk over him. But yeah, I mean, the problem with that is, you got to settle the propellant back on the bottom of the tank, and it's sloshing around like crazy. So I just don't get how that's going to work.
Yeah, they had some issues with that. Well, I don't know if it was propellant slosh, but it was related to that on some of the early flights, and it looks like the door's opening now.
Coming up right on the part of the timeline when we were expecting it. Look,
here we go.
Inside a Starship there. Oh, I see a door opening. Looks like Hal didn't wait. Pez door is open. Just a reminder, we've got 22 deployables in the payload bay today. 20 of those Starlink mass simulators, and then 2 are Dodger dogs, so we like to call them internally. setting up their modified V2 Starlink satellites. Those are going to be testing a bunch of components that we're planning to fly on Starlink V3, and we've also got them outfitted with a number of cameras for another tech demo that we're trying out on this flight. We definitely are looking for a way that we can look at Starship's heat shield while it's still in space. You can kind of only see so much from the cameras and the flaps. You can't see everything kind of on the underbelly, and one of the only ways you can do that is if you got something else flying near it. So we're going to attempt to, our final 2 satellites going out the door have a suite of cameras on them that are going to be looking back at the ship. We're going to be in nighttime, and so we've got, sounds like we're getting into payload deploy. We'll be in nighttime. They've got some powerful flashlights on them to try and illuminate the ship's heat shield while we fly away from it. So, we see some PEZ motion.
Here we go.
All right.
One thing, I don't know if they mentioned, but the PEZ dispenser is also upgraded on this flight. It's supposed to be more efficient. There we go. There goes the bike chain.
Pew, pew.
Oh, look, they don't have to retract them anymore. They can just spit out 2 in one go. They don't have to come back and then do it again.
2 down, 20 to go. As a reminder, that's one of the things that we upgraded in version 3, kind of gave a little soup up to the PEZ dispensers, so those satellites going to move out a little bit quicker than they did on previous Starship flight tests. So first 2 out the door, 2 more on their way out.
This is so cool.
All right, 4 down, 18 to go. Flexing my basic math skills here today. Again, the majority of this stack, 20 of these 22 satellites, they're essentially just mass simulators, so they're roughly the same size as those Starlink V3 sats that we're hoping to fly later this year. And from this top-down view, so you're looking down at the stack, those 2 satellites you see on the very top, that they'll look very different. They've got solar arrays. They've got a bunch of other deployables on them that we're going to be testing out that are going to be V3 tech, and they've got 3 engineering cameras and then 1 other camera that's hopefully going to be giving us some views of Starship in space. But we will see how that works. Again, this very much a tech demo. We're going to deploy those. The satellite's going to kind of try and turn everything on, look back at Starship, and the primary reason we're trying to do this is to get some views of the heat shield.
And those 2 satellites will technically be the first functioning payload that Starship ever deploys.
Out the door, and I think that counts, or that comes up to 8 total.
As you can tell, the teams are stoked to see this demonstration happening. It's pretty incredible to see this happening live from space. Now, as we noted earlier in the show, but worth repeating, this Starship, version 3, is built to deploy up to 60 of Starlink's more advanced V3 satellites. Everything's V3. Designed to offer 60 terabits per second of downlink capacity per satellite. Now, that is 20 times more than each Falcon 9 does today. Incredible.
All right, I think that's number 10 going out the door. Yeah, there it goes.
Haven't
So yeah,
had
the
any
camera view you have on your left screen
contact
there
with the
is
door
basically
yet, so
right
that's a
at the
good sign.
bottom of the payload volume. So the kind of dome-shaped structure you see there that's actually the top of the fuel tank.
Then the camera view that you have on the right is an external camera that we have positioned so that you can see basically the light through the open Pez dispenser door that you see. That's that sliver of light. We can see the Starlinks here deploying as each one comes through. As we mentioned, we have 20 of these Starlink simulator satellites, and then we have 2 of these specially modified, as we call them, Dodger dogs here around here. Those, as Dan mentioned earlier, they have some V3 tech on them, some solar arrays, and those will be the last 2 that will be deployed today.
Yeah, that's right. And seeing this, as I think Dan called them turbocharged or supercharged Pez dispenser, it's definitely coming out much faster than our previous flights. So that is really good to see. Yeah, look at that. And especially once we, fill Starship up all the way with around 60 or so of these Starlinks, being able to deploy them fairly expediently is going to be important for designing the overall mission profile.
Yeah. Now, fans of Starship may know that Starlink enables lots of unprecedented views, both from space, as we see here, and on Earth. In addition to the dozens of cameras on Starship itself, we also have mobile Starlink camera kits deployed in the Indian Ocean.
Yes, Starlink also connects our aerial cinematography units on the ground at Starbase and at other strategic camera spots around Texas.
It's all part of how it all comes together to tell the incredible story of Starship both on and off planet.
Yep.
All right, we're getting low on the stack. It looks like we got 2 more of those simulators to go out, and then it will be time for our Dodger Dogs, those modified Starlink satellites. Just a couple of updates while we continue to watch Payload deploy. Did get confirmation we're going to be skipping that relight of the Raptor engine, just due to everything that we saw on the way uphill. Those sea-level engines, we're going to use them for a landing burn, though. They are still capable to be used for that. So we'll still look to do a controlled landing in the Gulf, but no in-space relight.
I wonder what exactly is keeping them from doing that.
All right, I think that's 19 and 20 headed out the door.
All right, it's Dodger Dog time.
So these are modified V2 Starlink satellites. We do have a number of cameras on these that are going to attempt to look back at Starship. We're not going to get this video in real time, but we're going to try and turn it around if we do get some video down. So don't worry, if we get views of Starship from these satellites, we will be sharing.
Better.
And these will be exciting because, again, they're really a tech demo, getting our chance to test out some
As you said, not real time, so I'm not sure. I'm assuming that means we won't be seeing them today.
All right, I think that's 18 and 20. My basic math skills are failing now. All right, here we go.
I wonder if the ship's going to start doing all kinds of crazy maneuvers in order to have them get as much view of the tiles as possible.
He said that it's going to turn around.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah. Dodger Dogs, get your Dodger Dogs here.
this view, you can kind of see on the right side of the satellite, you see some bright white spots. Those are our flashlights. Beneath them, the camera is going to attempt to look back and image Starship.
Oh, they've got lights on them. Okay.
As it flies slowly away from the vehicle. And there it goes.
Whoa.
Wow. Let there be light.
Yeah, it almost looks like the light is just shining right at us there.
Wow. All right.
We're pretty excited.
We're going to start turning around here in a second.
It is always sunny in space.
Always sunny in space, and that looks like an empty payload bay. So
Sure does.
That's exactly what you want to see there. That's great. So yeah, with payload deploy complete. Oh, you can see the door closing there. All right, there we go. So yeah, with payload deploy complete, Starship will now close its... yeah, Starship, we closed the payload door, and we're going to continue to coast around Earth all the way to the Indian Ocean. So still a lot of major events to come today. Sounds like we're not going to hit that Raptor relight based on what Dan was saying, but after that, of course, we'll have the atmospheric reentry and splashdown. And with that, we're going to go on another quick coast.
So sit tight, enjoy some amazing space views and the space jams, of course. And we'll be back in a few minutes for Raptor relight. Excuse me, not for the relight, but we'll be standing by for atmospheric reentry.
All right, so we're going to turn around. Yep, here we go. So hopefully right now we are getting the first ever external views of Starship in space. You can actually see from this view, there's a few painted tiles. They're painted white. Those are not tiles that have fallen off. And those are imaging targets for these two Dodger dogs. And as Dan mentioned earlier, those views apparently are not going to be coming in live, or at least not real time. I'm not sure if he meant like maybe we would see them later in the live stream or just not today. I'm assuming he meant not today. But hopefully those views are being downlinked right now. I actually wonder because we're coming up on when they would have done the Raptor relight because that it would have happened over Southern Africa. I wonder if in the future, if they keep doing these imagery tests, if at some point they might be able to get a distant view of the Raptor relight.
I mean, it probably wouldn't be that distant, right?
Yeah, I mean, they'd still be relatively close, I'm sure. Assuming the Dodger Dogs don't have thrusters, which I don't think they do.
That would be a pretty cool view of the ship just skirting
Zooming
away.
away. Yeah.
Pew.
And I saw somebody say in chat, it looks like they're missing a few tiles. From this view, at least, I'm not seeing any missing tiles. There's some spots on, if you're looking at the section that's painted black, there's some spots on there that look like holes. Those are just vents, and I think a couple of them are actually like bona fide thrusters on there. Those are not missing tiles. And then you see some tiles that look like they're missing, but those are painted white. They're still tiles, they're just painted. And those are imaging targets for the Dodger Dogs. Someone said the Gateway to Mars sign didn't survive. Did it
No,
not?
it is destroyed.
Oh no.
Yeah, I posted on X. I said that's the most predictable thing that happened today. Like we've been saying it for months. Like there's no way that sign is going to survive. I was surprised it survived the static fire, but yeah, that was super predictable.
It just says Gateway now.
I'm sure we have a view of it, right?
And yeah, someone just mentioned, I don't know if those little blips of light that we're seeing underneath the ship right now, I don't know if those might be city lights or if those are the Starlinks. I think they might be the Starlinks. Because they do look like they're the general shape of the Starlinks. Oh my goodness.
I mean, they knew they had to have known that was going to happen.
Oh, it is gone. They're gonna have to
Honestly,
make a sign V2.
I thought it was just going to be the S and the R, but yeah, I mean, that's not surprising. They knew they've done this so many times that they knew that was not going to work.
Sign V2.
It's almost like they just wanted to get rid of it. Like you could have just given it to me. I would have done something with it. I don't know.
That's remnants of Rover 3.
Oh, what?
Saying that kind of reminds me of Rover 3. That shot of the Gateway to Mars.
Are we?
The gateway.
Wait. Whoa. Whoa.
Jeez.
Are you kidding me? Dude.
That's cool stuff, man.
Oh, look at the frost. Oh, please show us the turnaround. Oh, man. Oh, is this from the? I think this is from the second one. Yeah. Or is this a replay? Yeah, this is a replay. Never mind. I did notice, for those that may have been concerned, despite the damage to the Gateway to Mars sign, Hoppy appears to be fine. As he always is. Looks like they might not have footage of the turnaround yet. So for those who may not have heard,
All right, coming up on 40 minutes into the flight, and we should start hitting the reentry period in the next 7 minutes or so. You'll start to see a light show building up. As we had talked about, we did skip that on-orbit relight of the Raptor engine. It was not needed for our trajectory or anything. We are on this suborbital trajectory to splash down in the Indian Ocean. We are going to attempt a landing burn. We'll see how they perform when we get there. And just a reminder, we are going to be stressing the ship on the way in. We're going to intentionally do a maneuver where we're going to kind of pitch the nose up and deploy those bottom flaps to really put a lot of pressure on them. So we'll see how it does through that maneuver, and then we'll be doing kind of a final banking turn before we get to a landing burn. So all that coming up in a few minutes. The light show should start beginning real soon.
you can see some city lights down there as the ship passes over southern Africa. But for those that may not have heard earlier, Raptor relight attempt is not happening on this flight. They lost a Raptor vacuum engine on the way up, but we still had a nominal trajectory. Ship just had to burn for a little longer than expected. And we are coming up on atmospheric entry. We're already seeing some of those colors. And as Dan mentioned, they are going to be stressing the ship like they have on some of the previous flights, where they kind of pitch it up and down during entry. Another thing that they're going to do is a dynamic banking maneuver, where they kind of turn the ship on its side while it's coming through the lower atmosphere. And that's to simulate the maneuver that they're going to do when they start bringing ships back to Starbase for tower catches. Because what they're essentially doing here is a simulated return to the launch site. That's the whole point of landing in the ocean, is to simulate that process. And if it goes well, it shouldn't be too long before we see the first ship catch attempt.
But on that note, I think it'll be longer than we expected before we see the first booster catch, or the next booster catch.
Yeah, I think they're going to need a couple more cracks at it after seeing what happened today. But we had a good ascent. We had all 33 engines for most of it. We lost one towards the end, but Super Heavy has a ton of engine out capability, so not a huge concern there. But yeah, I think they're going to need a little more time to dial in the boost back and the landing burn. Someone asked, no way they hit the buoy bots with the engine out, right? That's a good question, actually. They didn't mention if they were still on the same trajectory that they would have been with all six, but I think what Dan said was the trajectory they were on was within bounds, like within the boundaries that they would expect if they were to lose an engine on the way up. So that sounds to me like they're not on the exact trajectory that they would want, which may indicate that the buoys will not see the ship. But we also, yeah, but we also don't, for one, we don't exactly know how widespread the buoys are placed. So there might be some that are still in the area they expect to touch down. And we also could see them just maneuver in the atmosphere, bank through reentry to try and steer the ship towards the area that they want to get to. So I wouldn't say it's out of the question that they still land where the buoys are, but certainly not guaranteed. We're seeing some plasma build up now. Some of it is green. That's a color that we don't see too often in reentry. Hopefully everything's good.
So I didn't realize SpaceX has a on-orbit vehicle tracker, which is pretty cool.
Oh, they do? Is it on their website?
I'll send it to Lucid right now.
As you can see on the bottom left with the telemetry, we're now well into the atmosphere, 88 kilometers up. Underneath the Kármán line at 100 kilometers. Looking like a pretty smooth reentry so far.
Well, the fun part's still on the way.
Yes, peak heating and peak pressure still quite a long way to go. Oh, forward flaps are moving. Now, this entry should, at least in theory, be not quite as difficult for the ship as some of the others because there's only one missing tile this time around. It's up on the nose, and it is there not to see how the ship handles missing tiles. They've already gotten a lot of data on that from previous flights, but to see how the tiles that are around a missing tile structurally handle reentry.
Now, as you see on your screen, currently the ship is re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. This is the plasma starting to build up on the exterior of the vehicle. Now, we do not plan to recover the spacecraft today, but rapid and reliable reusability is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, that's right. And re-entry is a critical phase of flight, and we need information on how the ship's systems perform. Re-entry is an extremely demanding portion of flight where we essentially have to scrub all of the energy we use to launch the rocket back off in reverse. So the 18 million pounds of thrust that we had off 33 of those Raptor engines.
Just a little.
Just a little. We're now, and then another, several minute burn on the ship. We're now basically undoing all that energy here via aerodynamic braking, essentially. And of course, Starlink is a big part of it, as that's what allows us to actually gather this data and show these live views. And again, the data gathering is really the main reason why we're doing these flight tests. So Starlink provides us just one more path to collect that data that ultimately allows us to rapidly iterate Starship's design.
Now, if ship manages to make it all the way through re-entry, we'll collect valuable data on the spacecraft flying through the Earth's atmosphere at these hypersonic speeds, which is basically more than 5 times the speed of sound. Now, we do anticipate that it might be a little bit of a spicy re-entry, so we'll see how far we get. Re-entry is typically a portion of flight where we don't have communications with the spacecraft because it's re-entering at or around orbital velocity, roughly 8 kilometers per second, or for those of us that think in other units, roughly 5 miles per second. At those speeds, the spacecraft is moving through the atmosphere, and it creates that plasma field that we saw forming around the vehicle.
Yeah, and although the plasma looks really cool, it does distort some communication frequencies. So it's not uncommon to experience brief blackouts in communication. Of course, thinking long-term here, Starship is designed to land on Mars where there are no runways or other humans to help out. That's why we're going with the propulsive landing instead of a more traditional means like parachutes. Propulsive landing, not only, again, is it more cool, but it enables a more rapidly reusable rocket.
Yeah. Now, we should hear some call-outs as the ship makes its way back to Earth. When we hear entry max heating and entry max Q, that means the ship has made it through the maximum heating and aerodynamic loads that it will experience as it returns. So if we make it through those, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah. And you can see in the bottom left right now, we're at 23,500 kilometers per hour speed. That's just a crazy number to think about. But as we keep progressing in the mission, we are going to hear a call out when the ship is transonic and then subsonic. So transonic refers to the period of flight where the velocities of airflow surrounding and flowing past the vehicle are concurrently below, at, and above the speed of sound, kind of in that Mach 0.8 to 1.2 range. And for reference, commercial jets have a range of cruising speeds, but mostly fly around Mach 0.74 to Mach 0.85. And after we hear the call out that Starship is transonic, we should hear the call out when Starship is subsonic. This refers to speeds that are much less than the speed of sound, so at this point in the flight, ship's velocity will be slowing down.
We definitely have a crowd still here in the lobby of SpaceX headquarters down here at Starbase, Texas. Everyone is, loves watching ship re-entry. It's always such amazing colors. This must be what it feels like to be one of those praying mantis shrimp or mantis shrimp. Can't remember exactly what the name is, but the ones that see and billions of colors. This is the closest I feel to being one of those.
Yep. I think one other thing that's cool to point out right now is look in the bottom right. You can see where we are on a globe there. We're squarely in the Indian Ocean already, and we've only been flying for 53 minutes.
Yeah.
So pretty crazy. We went all the way from Texas to the Indian Ocean in less than an hour.
Yeah. She flies pretty fast.
She
that
flies
is for
very
sure.
fast.
All right, so the light show continuing. We are through the period of peak heating, and we'll be looking at the peak pressure coming up in the next couple of minutes. The next 10 minutes are probably going to be the spiciest of entry today. As a reminder, we are going to be doing some stress work on this ship, where we're going to do a maneuver where we kind of kick the nose up to fully deploy those aft flaps to really get a good test of the structural strength of that part of the ship. We did that on one previous flight test on version 2. We're going to try and do that today. Since we did skip the in-space burn, we're carrying a little bit of extra propellant in our header tanks up in the nose, and so that's going to put a little bit of extra stress on those forward flaps as we come in. So we will see if they're able to hold through that reentry. So that will be another watch item. We did skip that in-space burn, but we are expecting at least 2 of those sea level engines to try and ignite for a landing burn. We entered the entry period in a good attitude, so hopefully making our way to the targeted splashdown point. We've got that Starship recovery team standing by, and we should be about 10 minutes away from splashdown. So a lot of excitement over the next couple of minutes. Kate and Jake, let's see how Starship holds up on the way in.
Yeah, and we just heard on the nets there that engine chill has started. So essentially what that means is we are prepping the landing engines by getting them down to temperature ahead of that landing burn later in the mission here.
And on a lot of our previous flight tests, we've been removing a bunch of the tiles. If you've watched those, we were really intentionally trying to push ship beyond its limits. On the last flight, we even had basically a hole get punched into the liquid oxygen tank that you could see when we did the landing burn into the ocean, and this ship was still able to make it. But right now, we're really going to be testing the structural strength of these flaps on the way in. Again, this is a flight test. We're trying to intentionally find where our limits are. And in this view, you're looking at a whole bunch of tiles. I think Jake talked about it earlier. We bonded some additional
Look at the
tiles
plasma
to
on the catch point.
the leeward, or kind of the metal side of Starship, to see how those different bonding techniques would hold up. And looking like we've got quite a bit still attached.
Yeah, and as we're going down through the atmosphere here, we are at about Mach 16.1. So still extremely fast, although we have, scrubbed off a substantial amount of our speed already. Altitude at a little less than 60 kilometers.
You can see there's a little.
All right, we're
a
about
little bit
8
of
minutes
plasma
away
on
from
the
our
lift and the
targeted
catch
landing
pin.
and splashdown time. Again, this is when the ship's going to start really
Ship
getting
is
put
approaching
through
the
ringer.
end of the peak heating region.
Just heard
That's
the call
good
out,
news.
getting to
I
the
think
end
we're getting
of
into
the
sunrise,
peak heating.
too.
So the highest temperature the Starship's going to see during its reentry.
This camera angle changes as it is attached to the forward flap on Starship. So we're actually experiencing the articulation of that hardware, helping to steer the ship down for its precise landing in the Indian Ocean.
I love seeing how the
Yep, that is
plasma
just a
on the
really
left
cool,
changes as
kind
the
of cool
flap
piece of
moves.
perspective there. I know some people say it makes them a little seasick, but I definitely love it. It makes it feel like you're really riding along with the ship on the way down.
Yeah, and aside from just looking cool, all these camera views providing just really critical data on how the heat shield, how the flaps themselves are holding up. That's why we've got these in the flaps and then all scattered all around the ship so you can see how they hold up. There's some internal to the vehicle too and we're getting all of this video back via Starlink. Even as we're just enshrouded in plasma, we're able to kind of operate at a high enough frequency to punch through, and that is blue ocean and sunlight you're seeing just beyond the flap. So we are coming down into daylight, hopefully splashing down in the next 6 minutes or so in the Indian Ocean. We've still got a couple of maneuvers lined up where we're going to be really stressing the flaps on the ship. So
ship has passed through the peak heating region. External temperatures are coming down.
Wow, that is incredible news. As Dan mentioned, we were expecting this reentry to be super spicy, but excellent news that we're now past that period of peak heating and that now the external temperatures are starting to decrease. Those heat shield tiles there on the belly of the ship really doing
crazy.
a ton of work to burn off all of that inertia that the vehicle had prior to re-entering the atmosphere.
Yeah, and you can tell by the G meter down on the bottom right that we're starting to pick up a couple more Gs here, so we're definitely entering the thicker part of the atmosphere where we're scrubbing off all that energy, like Kate's saying.
all right, just about 5 minutes or so to go. We're coming up shortly on the maneuver where we're gonna, it's affectionately called the flap slap, where we're going to kind of pitch the nose up on the ship, and you're gonna see those aft flaps, the ones in the very bottom, fully deploy.
The flap slap.
Ship is at peak dynamic pressure.
And we're now at peak pressure.
Here we go.
Ship flap load test has started.
Looks like it's holding. Again, the intent of that was to put just a lot of extra stress on those aft flaps. We are expecting the forward ones too to see a little bit of extra stress as we've got a little more propellant in our header tank, so the area right at the very nose of
Ship
Starship.
flap load test is complete.
And we're through that test.
There we go. And we just did that test at Mach 7, just for reference there. So we are still going incredibly fast.
Not for much longer, though.
All right, we are just about 3.5 minutes or so away from our targeted landing burn. Again, we're expecting to try and see 2 of these Raptor engines light for the landing burn. Nominally, we plan for 3, but we're going to give it a try with 2. Hopefully, we've got
Ship is starting the RTLS banking maneuver.
And that right there, so we're starting a banking maneuver, and essentially what that is when we come back to Starbase, or when we plan to come back to Starbase, the trajectory is designed so we'll essentially swing out over the Gulf and do a swoop maneuver to then come back to the towers for catch. And so we are doing that exact same maneuver as we head towards our targeted splashdown in the Indian Ocean.
Look at the velocity just plummeting.
Yeah, that call out there that we heard, RTLS stands for Return to Launch Site. So definitely a pretty cool thing we're demoing here on the ship. You know, as in the future, we are going to be trying to bring the ship back to the launch site, which is going to be absolutely insane.
Absolutely. But of course, we want to test out these maneuvers, these principles, prior to actually bringing the hardware back to the pad. This is the same reason why we were intentionally not trying to bring the booster back to the pad. So we're trying all these things out in this developmental phase of the vehicle, and really proving what a test flight is.
Absolutely.
Dynamic pressure is coming down.
All right, we heard there dynamic pressure coming down, and I'd say we're in a pretty good bank right now.
Yeah, executing the power slide. We're about 90 seconds away from our anticipated landing burn. Clouds coming up, pretty sunrise on the other side of the planet.
Starship is subsonic and is on target.
On target.
The crowd here reacting to that call out, letting us know that we are on target for this precise landing in the Indian Ocean. This will once again be a soft splashdown. We should get some pretty cool views from the recovery team who we chatted with earlier. They are standing by to receive this ship. Once again, this is the first flight of our completely redesigned Starship version 3.
So we are going to get
and if
buoy
you remember
cam.
the suborbital flights from a few years ago, this is very much the same regime that we're in here. So we're sub 15 kilometers, executing what we call the belly flip maneuver.
Yes, serial number 8, the first belly flop. I remember it well. Just some really amazing views of the Earth as the ship is coming back home. Thanks,
You'll
Starlink.
notice on the top right, our timeline's a little off. That's just because of the engine out that happened earlier today. Trajectory's a little different than what we were expecting, but we're on target still.
Making minor corrections.
Starship is turning for final approach to landing site.
Look at that turn.
There we go. Minor corrections and a full turn.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Starship doesn't fly like an airplane. It's a lot more like a skydiver. Full belly flop on the way down, using those flaps similar to arms to help change the path of the air over you. Coming up real soon. Again, going
Here we
for
go.
landing
First
burn,
ever
trying to
relight of
light
Raptor 3.
2 of these Raptor sea level engines.
In flight.
Well, technically.
Landing burn startup.
Landing burn startup. 2 engine flip.
Whoa!
Successful flip. Buoy cam.
Starship is
catching
landed.
it.
Good shut time.
All right, give us the
boy.
kaboom.
Oh!
Yeah!
Amazing. That ball of fire is exactly what we wanted to see for the ship today. As weird as it may sound to hear, but it is the truth.
Absolutely wild. At the beginning of the show,
We're pretty hyped.
we guaranteed excitement at the beginning of the show, and I'd say Starship delivered.
Absolutely. An incredible day for Starship. That was the first flight of that completely redesigned vehicle. As you can tell, the teams are incredibly proud
on
of
the
what we
first
just
flight
saw.
of V3.
Yeah, V3
Wow.
definitely showed up. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've pretty happy crowd in the control room behind me, I will say. It's probably the most excited I've seen a lot of people in a really long time. On target landing. Wow. Actually, let's jump over. Hey, Tyler, how's everyone holding up in Hawthorne?
We're having a great time, Dan. Thank you so much. That was another exciting Starship flight in the books, and we hope that you enjoyed those awesome
I see
Starlink
a buoy
views.
cam in the
So
background.
congratulations to the team at Starbase and everyone here and around the company. So many employees have contributed to the Starship program as we continue to iterate and make progress towards a multi-planetary future. So that wraps it up for us here in Hawthorne. Thank you guys for tuning in, and back to you, Dan.
All right, thanks. So just to recap, we lifted off right at the top of our window, 5:30 p.m. Central Time. We were able to see the booster light 33 of those Raptor engines get off the pad and ascent over the Gulf. Successful hot stage separation. Initially lit 6 of those Raptor engines, lost one of the RVACs on the way uphill, and then the booster didn't complete its full boost back. Its mission ended a little bit early, but landed in the clear area that we had set in advance. Once we were on orbit with ship, we were able to get through our payload deployment, 22 satellites, the 20 simulators, the 2 Dodger dogs, which successfully turned on cameras. We'll see if we got any more views from those. So obviously stick around. Skipped the Raptor relight, but made it through reentry, on target landing in the Indian Ocean. You saw those views. Starship made it. It's been a long time coming. We're really excited to see this vehicle fly, and there are several more on the way. So that's going to do it for me up here. Send it back down to Kate and Jake and everybody who I hope is at least a little bit excited down in Star Factory.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely insane down here. We would, of course, want to thank the fine people of Cameron County, including the residents here at Starbase, as well as the Coast Guard, the Federal Aviation Administration, the government of Mexico, and of course, the Australian Space Agency.
Yeah, so honestly, just huge congratulations to all our teammates here at SpaceX and everyone who's supported the Starship mission just in general here. It's been a massive effort, really incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that worked really hard to make things look easy, so shout out to those teams. Now be sure to follow SpaceX on X for updates and more exciting views that we didn't get to show you on today's live program. I have a feeling we'll see some pretty amazing stuff come from those demonstration satellites that we were able to show some initial footage of. Now, if you're interested in more launch coverage, head on over to our profile on X. We also have spacex.com/launches for you to check out for the most up-to-date information. So thanks to all of you for tuning in. We're going to close it out and celebrate with our colleagues. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Wow.
I mean, couldn't have gone better for the ship, especially with everything that happened with the V2 series. So that's really exciting that they, here we got some more views of the.
I think this is the same clip we saw earlier. We might see, maybe they'll show the turnaround. I don't know. But this was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, for everything that happened with the V2 ship over the first few flights of that, I think this was a really great turnaround for the ship team to have things go right on the first time. Even with losing an RVAC, they still managed to get through everything else. It seems like, I don't know if they could not have done I'm assuming they could have done the in-space burn, since they obviously successfully did the landing. So very good to see that the ship is doing fairly well as far as recovering from everything that happened with the V2 series. It's really nice to see progress in that area, and no burn through on any of the flaps. Everything looked really good. I think that's a big step towards the first return to launch site mission. So with that, I almost wouldn't be surprised if that one happens at the same time we see
we very briefly got a look at the heat shield from that drone view, and also from the buoy, and that was, dare I say, the best that it's ever looked after entry. Which makes sense given that there was only one missing tile this time around. But yeah, I think they're really starting to get the ship dialed in. And it's good to see, that we didn't get a setback from V2 to V3 like we had from V1 to V2. Yeah, I think they could have done the Raptor relight. I'm still not sure why we didn't get any word on why exactly they didn't go for it. I guess they were just concerned because the RVAC went out earlier. Probably, I'm assuming the same reason they only went with 2 engines on the landing burn instead of 3, but it handled it really well. Good to see the ship actually showing some redundancy like what we've seen in the booster. Yeah, seems like the booster team might need another shot at it. for the boost back burn and the landing burn. That 33 engine boost back didn't go too well this time around.
So I got some of the information on the infrasound and seismograph, if y'all are interested.
Yeah, shoot.
All right, so the infrasound, I have a comparison with Flight 12 and Flight 10, and unexpectedly, the peak pressure on Flight 12 is 57.5% less than Flight 10. And it also produced 6.5% less decibels, which was 115.6 versus 108.2. So that's I didn't expect that. I thought it was going to be louder. So a lot less pressure. It was 51.4 microbars of pressure that it produced, and this is from 7 miles away. One versus 121 microbars for Flight 10.
Right.
Wow.
And I guess that's thanks to that new Deluge. It's doing the work.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
kind of.
definitely.
I mean,
And
because
same with
you're
the
just talking
seismic
about
comparison. The ground velocity was 88.5% less on flight than it was for Flight 4, and yeah, it's a lot less. That's very interesting.
Oh. Sorry, y'all. We had some comments from Lab talking about some of the seismograph readings that he picked up, but I believe he was muted for that time. Oh, wait. Okay, hold on. You guys might have actually heard that. Yeah, okay. You guys heard that.
All right,
Sweet.
Where are we at?
But yeah, that's really interesting information. Zach, did you have something to say about that?
Yeah, all I was saying was that I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put that in the case of the Deluge system being the reason why it was quieter, because I mean, technically that noise what he's measuring happens after liftoff, right? Like you're only capturing probably about 2 to 3 seconds of what happens before liftoff. I guess he's not hearing us right now.
He might not be able to hear us. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe he has us muted. But yeah, so I mean, most of what he's capturing should have happened after liftoff. So it was genuinely quieter somehow, even with more thrust, which is very interesting.
It's just we just saw the hot staging just a second ago on the feed from where we were replaying it, and just watching all of the engines just drop out instantly was really, really cool.
I think
it's cool that
from
they
the audience wanted us to show the landing burn.
Oh yeah, the ship landing burn.
So now the next question is, or the big $1 million question is, when is Flight 13 gonna launch?
Oh man. Well, based on everything that happened on this flight, it seems like we're not going to have any extra time dedicated to any mishap investigations. So, I'm sure, depending on how the pad's doing, I wouldn't be surprised if we get Flight 13 in the next 2 months?
I say before the end of June.
Maybe. I guess it depends largely on how the pad's doing and how quick they can get Booster 20 and Ship 40 tested. I know Ship 40 is essentially done. It's fully stacked, right?
I don't know if it's fully stacked, but I know it won't take long if it's not.
Yeah, 20?
Yeah,
You guys
I'm gonna.
asking about 20?
If I was a
Oh, we're talking
betting
about ship
man,
40.
Ship
Okay.
40. Yeah, I'm. If I
Yeah,
was a
ship 40
betting man,
stacked.
I'd say we're gonna see flight 13 before the end of June. Not
Yeah, I
flight
mean,
13, not 14. 13.
unless there's anything that needs to be done as far as an investigation into the whole booster, the boost back, I think that would be the one thing that slows them down. I was kind of joking in my Discord server that it should be a simple investigation on that one because all they have to say is we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, we shouldn't have tried to light all 33. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they got it done by the end of June. I mean, we've seen their capability to get new flights online within a month. I'm pretty sure Flight 5 and Flight 6 were under a month from each other. So we've definitely seen them capable of doing that. I saw somebody said in chat, do you think they can get the sign rebuilt in time for Flight 13? I think the better question is, are they going to rebuild the sign at all, or might it be a better idea to relocate it?
Yeah, that thing needs to be relocated. You can't have a sign right there, dude. Come on. Not after what we saw today.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've known that for a very long time that a sign would not survive in that location.
Yeah, and we, man, Zach, you were right. That thing shot off the pad. That was crazy.
Yeah, I feel like most of my predictions on that one came true. Did I say that it was probably gonna go wrong in boost back? I think I said that as well. As soon as they confirmed that it was 33, and I was like, okay, well, I think they're probably, if anything, gonna have.
So that last bit of data for the seismic data, Flight 12 only produced about 11.5% of the seismic amplitude than Flight 4 did. So much quieter, much less vibration. So I'm curious what the naysayers around here are going to say when I produce this information to them.
Yeah, that's really interesting that it's so much less. But that's a good sign.
Definitely. The last time I produced some of this information to some people, they wanted to know who I worked for and what my credentials were. They're like, "Oh, you must work for SpaceX. You're trying to peddle us some false information."
All right. Well, that was on the ship side, couldn't have done much better. On the booster side, still a really good looking Ascent. So I would call this a pretty darn successful 12th flight of Starship and first flight of version 3. So with that, I think we can start wrapping things up here. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
Did we have any other last minute questions or anything from the chat that maybe we should?
Let me see. I can take a look here. We have not had any in the past hour, it looks like, though we did actually, thank you for reminding me, we had a couple of super chats come in, I think, during the flight, both from Just Martin, both the same amount, £2 sterling. So I'll put those up on screen real quick. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for reminding me to do that. Let's see. I'm not seeing any questions. We had one come in. I guess this was maybe during the coast, asking what all the stuff flying around in the ship was. If you're talking about inside the ship, like inside the payload bay, most of that I would wager is probably gas or ice that's flying around. I know we've seen a couple of times when they open up the payload bay door, there's a lot of gas that kind of gets sucked out into space. But usually there's like pieces of ice that might come off the tank walls and such. So that's likely what that was. But yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this 12th flight of Starship. Definitely wanting to increase some of our live coverage of Starship activities here. So hopefully we'll have coverage for y'all for the static fires of the Flight 13 vehicles, Booster 20 and Ship 40. So we'll see you then. But until we get there, Zach, Lab, any last comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a special shout out again to everybody that helped out today, especially my right-hand man, Whiz Kid, right here next to me, and also Rocket Ranch and the Sapphire Condominiums, Isla Grande Beach Resort, all the commentators, the admins, moderators, cam operators, and especially all you out there watching and supporting us. Thank you all. It's been a great ride today.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for having me on. It was great to be here with y'all today. I'm glad that things went off as planned. Tons of room for improvement, but
I
that's
guess we
always...
lost Zach.
No, I'm here.
I haven't heard him in a while.
Yeah, we've got Zach. I don't think you can hear him, Lab.
Yeah, so great outcome for today. I'm really happy for SpaceX, especially with the V3, the ship. Like I said, lots of things to come with the booster for sure. Doing some really aggressive things there.
I see
so
Friday
I'm
Ray
excited
in the house reminding me to thank Mrs. Lab. Thank you, Mrs. Lab, for everything you do. Mwah.
Well, I guess Lab still can't hear me, but that is fine.
But with that, I'm going to sign off.
Okay.
We're going to pack up and get out of here and go meet with some more rocket nerds, possibly at the Hopper House.
All right. Well, I will see you all next time.
All right. Thank you, Lab. Thank you for joining us today. And I'll give one last thank you all for reaching 250,000 subscribers on the channel during this stream. That was awesome that we were able to do that in the middle of our coverage. So one final thank you all for all of your support, for being here, and for joining us for this Starship flight. We will see you all next time and hopefully pretty soon for Flight 13. This is Caden from Avid Space signing off.